And I
can just listen at worst comes to worst, but no one can
It's
say.
like
words.
$6,000. So
We can just what? Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Then it becomes a presentation. only. No
And it's being
questions.
recorded on YouTube, right? So that they could watch it later.
I'm awful at checking.
Well, I'm just thinking all the other finance committee members.
They can watch it later, yeah, if it's recorded.
But I mean, I would have
hate to have,
emailed you as well by your
Like, we
voices.
have time.
Right. Oh, I hear voices. In the hallway, voices not here.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, we're good.
We actually,
Okay.
we asked them like, what do you?
Picked up a few stragglers along, the yeah, watch out, please. This is a disaster over on this side.
We have a
preference, I should go
That's
Yes,
yes. If you
they're
feel you
gonna
want to
sit
sit
here.
here, I can do that too tonight. Okay,
I like it here. I can look at.
okay.
This is where the presenters are gonna sit. So you can-
Last person in has to sit.
Just be careful.
So we put it back up to bid. And
Oh,
it was
Sheila.
basically the same.
I did not see Sheila.
Right. So instead of front loading. it's spread. Lot doesn't
My
cost-
mother made them for her. They were for Pratt Month. She is very into her 3D printer, so I had her make, she made the horses for Lisa too. And she would be more than happy to make any one of you something if you have requests. She is semi-retired and is finding a hobby.
I don't require any special handling. really.
Oh, fair. So we are all set,
Did
online.
Able to make it?
She didn't,
Okay.
but you do.
Okay.
So it's you, when you are ready, the technology is.
You do
set.
have a fourth.
Oh, I do.
Oh, is she not
I don't know
there?
if that's her or not.
You?
Oh, you were
maybe
maybe
Okay.
sweating out a form. Sorry. I was looking at numbers and I realized I need to move my body and look at numbers somewhere else.
All right, about ready?
Mhm.
Do we have a little sign here?
Oh, the.
Or we go-
You're being recorded. Good.
Yeah.
Now and forever. Started. Second set of this name.
We lost the spot. We're going at 7:30.
Excuse me.
Is this-
We'd love to watch.
This is a long one.
I'll let us go first. What is it?
Shorter one on the back? No.
It's all.
Do you have to read the whole thing?
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year as well.
The whole, Page.
Wow, it is a page. I don't know when that happened, but perhaps we should to be safe.
okay. Call to order, Berlin Finance Committee. Welcome and thank you for joining us today, whether in person or virtually. Please be advised that this open session public meeting is being recorded. As such, your voice and image may be captured during the proceedings. All meeting agendas are available online at https://www.mytowngovernment.org 01503. This recording and public access are conducted in accordance with the Massachusetts Open Meeting Law, General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20E. Hopefully we can shorten that up.
I'll take a look into that. That one came from.
All right, we'll do the one quick item here, next last minutes.
Minutes, yep.
So,
But we approve them as submitted.
okay, I second that. Any other discussion in the minutes?
No.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All right, minutes approved 3-0. All right, now we can get going. It's pass the bit on first.
Assabet is up first. If they would like to come forward.
I know, he's in the. We'll do introductions while we're waiting.
I like that. I hear footsteps.
Just in the nick of time.
And you should all have a copy of their presentation.
Indeed.
Room around the small table.
Be indoors, huh?
Sure.
You are all
Oh, you
set.
start, okay,
folks,
you're
whenever
already
you're
open, huh?
ready.
My apologies. Well, good evening and thank you once again. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm Ernie Houle. I'm the Superintendent Director here at Aspen Valley. To my far left, we have our esteemed school committee rep, Lynn Ryan, representative of Berlin. And then to my immediate left, we have our interim director of business operations, Jean Savoy. So tonight, we're going to present to you our preliminary FY27 budget. Just as a reminder, the governor will be coming out with her budget numbers third week in January. And as those numbers roll out, we'll be able to put a finer point on our FY27 budget. Just quickly, some of the fast facts for Berlin as we get into our presentation. And you'll see that when we get into the presentations, there's some page numbers missing because we had hidden slides because we don't have updated numbers for those. So we didn't print them to confuse you. So if it goes from like 2 to 5 or 16 to 19, I'll just call it out as to what page I'm on. So our budget plan for 27 includes our strategic planning initiatives. It addresses our increase in multi-language learner students, social emotional learning, and mental health issues that many school districts is dealing with, even though we're a few years out of COVID. This year, our trend continues with all in-district students applying at Assabet. So having a full freshman class of all in-district students. And basically what that means is that the cost of educating these students are solely borne by our in-district communities. For FY27, our October 1 number for this year is 38 students. And what that represents is actually a reduction of 6 students for Berlin going into FY27. So 6 less students in this budget projection than what we currently have in the building.
Sorry, Ernie, should I be following anything? Or just
No, I have a
Just
recap that I didn't
like-
jump into the presentation yet,
Okay.
but
Thank you.
I'll let you know when we jump into that. So that's a reduction of 6. The preliminary assessment is $657,111. And just for and we'll get these numbers again, but it's about a $201,782 less than the current FY26 assessment. That's what the FY27 preliminary assessment is.
Which
okay?
we will be back for next year, probably.
I'm excited.
The preliminary assessment also includes, that number includes the debt service payment of $60,549. And that's a reduction of $1,606 from the current FY26. So the operating share enrollment that Berlin has this year is a 3.4%. For FY27, currently it's at a 4.1. So with that reduction of 6, you can see there's about a reduction in your enrollment share.
And that's our ratio versus the other towns.
Yes, and you'll see that on one of the slides as we get in. So that's just the kind of precursor. The other thing I'll share with you is you have currently this 36 9 through 12 students in the district, and then there's 2 postgraduates who's post-secondary. So when you look at all the numbers, and you're going to see this, I didn't give you a copy of this, but it usually is in the budget book. And so until we get the budget book complete, I just wanted to give you, you'll see it reflected in here that there's 38 for the number when you see the assessment. And it's because there's 2 postgraduate students either in LPN or in cosmetology. Okay. But out of the 38, it looks like HVAC is the most popular shop for your students. And then it's a tie between metal fabrication with 7, and then a tie between metal fabrication, electrical wiring, which is 5 students in each of those. And then it's a kind of looks like automotive technology and health tech have the next tied to that. So just to kind of give you some quick information about the students. The other thing is, I will say before we get into the budget that it's a pleasure working with the town on the community project that we're doing this over the past couple of years with the renovation of the EMS and safety space that's up there. Speaking with Jason Isbro, our off-campus coordinator. He's also the carpentry instructor that's out on the project. He had mentioned that just to give the you folks an update. The electrical department's in doing a lot of wiring that's happening in all the areas of that new building. I believe we had a little offshoot of a side project that they're also working on, some Cat 5 that I believe the police wanted a kiosk out in the lobby area. So there's some
Connected dispatch.
yeah, connected dispatch, so when the hours, off hours. And then I think they're running some Cat 5 for some new phone lines, right? 5 new phone lines in some of the offices.
Yes.
So, which are not part of that potential project up there, but we don't mind little side jobs because when you have 14 students up there, sometimes you need to spread them out a bit to get the work done. So,
I do
And
have
it's
to
been
give-
good for the students too, so we thank you for the opportunity.
yeah, great.
It has been wonderful, and I do have to give a little shout out to your wiring students while you're here. They
Okay.
came and sang Christmas carols
No.
for us.
Yes.
Yeah, I
did.
understand they were your junior students,
it was
and the
juniors.
seniors had had an opportunity to do some caroling, but the juniors had not.
Yeah.
And so we encouraged them, and they came and stood in the hallway and sang a Christmas song for all of us.
Excellent.
So it was an experience.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sure.
Well,
Well-
it shows you make them feel comfortable.
Good. We
Absolutely.
hope so. We love having them here. There's a spirit in the building that there is not otherwise
That's
when
great.
they're here. So
Yeah,
it's
and it's a great educational opportunity, as Lynn said, and it's a way for them to understand and learn how to give back based on the skill set that they're learning. So appreciate that. So the overall budget fast facts, if you go to the second page, it says introduction on the bottom. Basically, what we're seeing is with that 41 in-district students, it's about a 3.8% increase in our overall in-district enrollment for our member communities. We're basing some of this on obviously hypotheticals until the governor's numbers comes out. But the 41 number drives everything moving forward. So in Chapter 70 funding, we have a 10.2% increase, which is the 1,125,890 figure that you see there. And then an increase in the minimum local contribution. Obviously, that's slightly challenging to address because obviously the government and the Commonwealth will look at your aggregate wealth factor based on your past year with, median income and then businesses that are in, and they'll determine what that is. We use this year's flat figure, but with new student numbers. You had a reduction, so we took this current year's number and reduced it by 6, and it still showed this increase of 1,302,322. This is overall, by the way. This isn't just for Berlin. Okay, so
And there's an overall increase of in-district students, so that also makes you a smaller percentage of the budget.
correct. So total increase from the Commonwealth, we're expecting a $2,428,212. The next one is just kind of the topics that we have here, page 1. You want to jump to page 2. Our overall operating budget, we're looking at an 8.3% increase. And this is again at 100% net school spending. This is at minimum local contribution with just the above minimum assessment required. The operating budget, 31,494,594. When it says not including capital, that's including the long-term debt. And then the $2.5 million overall increase shows 111,162 above what the Commonwealth is going to provide us of the above minimum assessment required, which includes the transportation, OPEB costs, and then our capital stabilization fund. There's also the capital budget, which is the long-term debt service payment, which is the 11th. And that's $1,658,875, which is a reduction of $44,000 from this current year FY26. And that 1.6 is distributed based on the enrollment numbers across all 7 communities, and you'll see that in the slide. So our overall budget again is $33,153,469. And just interrupt me if you have questions as we move along. On the next page, page 3, are our budget drivers. Obviously, I mentioned we have increasing number of ESL students, so we've had to provide some additional staff and services for that. We did, through some attrition, have a Spanish teacher retire, and then instead of replacing that individual, we ended up bringing in an ESL specialist to be able to fill that position, because obviously with more students of ESL, we have less students needing to learn Spanish. So we made that adjustment without adding an additional staff member. We want to make sure that, as I mentioned, we inherit the kids as they come in ninth grade. So if there's any kind of curriculum gaps, based on those ESL students or students with some learning disabilities, we have co-taught classes for all those students. Our percentage for special education students currently at this time is about 21%. When I started at Assabet, it was 35. So
Right.
over the past number of years, it's been a reduction in students. However, the percentage or the number of disabilities or learning needs that each student has grown increasingly. So it's a little bit, it's kind of shifted. The overall student percentage is lower, but the needs have grown. And then we have obviously within our Chapter 74 programs, inflationary costs due to consumables, equipment purchases, things of that nature. That also drive this budget. The other thing I didn't mention, and I should probably mention it, the unknown factors that tie into this budget is we currently don't have a percentage for healthcare increase for FY27. What we're hearing from our consultants is it can be in the range of 12 to 20%. I think speaking with Berlin, they mentioned something similar. So we don't have, that's an unknown at this time. We also are in the midst of negotiations still with our two bargaining units. So the contract ended in June 30th. So we're still in negotiation with them. So that's an unknown factor. And then really the only known factor we have is transportation, which we know it's going up to 2.8% for FY27. The unfortunate piece with that, and I think you'll hear a similar comment from my colleagues from Berlin, is that there's only one game in town when it comes to transportation, and we're kind of held hostage of, what the cost is. So you'll see later on in the presentation that the cost of transportation is over $2 million. On page 5, you'll see the enrollment changes, and you see them by community. Berlin's right at the very top of that blue bar, and you'll see it top from left to right. The town, grade 9, 11, 10, 11, 12, and then 2 post-secondary students. That's the 2. There's no school choice, which we don't participate in school choice. We participate in non-resident student tuition. School choice is whether or not, if a community had seats and the committee voted to allow school choice to happen, then they could backfill with students if they had open seats for a set number. We happen to do non-resident tuition because we're a technical school. You'll see in the previous year it was 44, so there's the minus reduction in 6. So you can see, and then another interesting thing to note, there are only 24 students that remain at Assabet from our out-of-district communities that are non-resident. So we're almost completely
In district.
in district. Yes, that's what I was looking to say. Thank you, Lynn. So that's a huge change, right, over the years that we've talked about. We've had this kind of effect where you've got, a crossroads that's happening that's caused this spike in our budget and how the assessment has been driven by that enrollment. So any questions? And you can see there's a number of communities that have reductions in enrollment this year. It's not just Berlin. Berlin, Hudson, Maynard, Northborough, Marlboro's increased quite a bit, and so has Southborough and Westborough. But again, it changes from year to year. I know we've had a number of years where it's been low here in Berlin, and then it's jumped up, sometimes in double-digit numbers.
That's why I said we'll be back next year for whatever we don't charge this year.
Preview of coming attractions.
Well, we vacillate, and it's about the same number the last few years. It's always been, it would be 8 we would be down 8 high school students, but we picked up 2 postgraduates that I don't think we had last year.
Right. Okay, questions? So we use statutory method of assessment on page 6, and that's the basically we have chapter 70 funding, and then obviously what happens is minimum local contribution, which is the aggregate wealth model, which you'll see in another slide coming up. And then any other costs that are above minimum, transportation, OPEB, and capital costs, like the capital stabilization, can be added to that, and then that's what our communities are required to pay. The state generally puts you at what they think your minimum net school spending should be. It's always been right at the 100% net school spending. We don't really have above and beyond that. And if we do, which you will see in a slide here, it's because we probably haven't met net school spending in a year prior. But what happens is if you don't meet the threshold that the state sets, you have to make it up in the next year's budget, whether you budgeted or not for it. If you don't, they allow you to do that for the second year, the second year following. But after that, then they stop, they'll hold your funds.
And they fine
And
you.
they fine you.
No more Mr. Nice Guy. huh?
Yeah, so this is what MLC is, just to break down in the definition.
Page you already.
I'm on page 7, yep. So that's the minimum local contribution known as the aggregate wealth model. And basically, they want to get everybody to 82.5% of what it costs to educate your students. And if you're not, they're looking to have you make that up. In the poorer communities, the state's making up the difference of that 82.5. On page 8, again, minimum local contribution. This just talks again about the release of the budget from the governor and when they have to have it by statute. Once they do, and once it's there, you'll see there's an HTTP. Those will be live links when I share the next document that we have for you when we come back February 25th. And it'll bring you directly to the documents that we reference, even though you'll see copies of these. Those are some of the slides that are missing from here. So you'll see that page 8 jumps now to page 10. And here is the net school spending that I mentioned. I list all of our member communities as well as several vocational communities. And you'll see if you just look at the darker blue box at the very bottom piece, it says Aspet Valley, and follow that across. You'll see in FY24, we were at 99.9% net school spending, and we should have been spending 102.3. So we were below, so they have you make it up in the next year. If you look up top, a lot of these have kind of leveled out, especially now that ESSER funding and things of that nature have gone away. But you'll see in some of the communities that, what's required and what they spend on education, which is a fantastic thing, because they're educating their students. There's nothing wrong with that, but we don't tend to have areas in which we can cut from our budget to the minimum net school spending.
Say, before you go away from that page, what I'm noticing is that.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's at the state level, we're reported as Berlin-Boylston.
Yes,
Because there's no longer Berlin, yes, independent
Right.
net school spend.
right.
board.
Right.
So does that actually reflect the two towns, or is it reflecting just with respect
Yes.
to your
It's the
formula?
it's
But
the
if you know,
This
if you
is-
don't know.
This is,
strictly the
yeah, this is for the district. It's funny, this question came up as I was referencing and researching to be prepared to come tonight. I saw the email from last year when I was coming, and they were asking about out of the 422 students at Tohoto.
Yeah.
Was the Aspet number tied into that same number? And it isn't. They're both separate. So it shows up as Berlin on the cherry sheets when you get to see them, but then it lists the two schools that you're responsible for. And it lists them separately, and then it lists the funding that each separate as well.
So it still is calculated separately, but it's just got the regional.
The town gets the total number for all of its students,
All students, yeah.
all students.
Ah,
And
okay,
then
okay.
they divide
Then they
that up
divide
by
that, got it.
percentages.
Got it,
Yeah.
okay.
I'll be
Yeah,
prepared
nice.
for that.
We're very fortunate to have her
That's
because
the answer. I think.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah.
Can I ask one question through the chair? On the funding, for Assabet, I know at one point under the Baker administration, there had been a significant amount of investment in vocational schools. We talked a little bit about some of the machinery. I got to see a great tour a few years back. Is that continuing under the current administration? Has that changed in any way?
Yeah, no, it is. They are, it's through the Workforce Skills Capital Grant, equipment grants. So what they have done is, yes, they've provided an outlet for actually not just vocational schools, but any school district as they're looking to expand CTE, current technical education. Any school that would like to potentially put in Chapter 74 programs because the demand is so high. There's a wait list between 6,000 and 10,000 students that would like to get into CTE every year. So they've opened up these skill capital grants, and this is funded through the millionaire's tax from Commonwealth of Mass. So between the transportation and education, those are the two areas in which that millionaire's tax is supposed to fund. Currently, they've allocated 100 million towards CTE. 65 million of it is towards CTE expansion. So they have grants in the range of $2 to $5 million to expand programs in order to increase seats in each different district. And then part of the remaining 35 million, they were talking about satellite campuses that if comprehensive schools wanted to open a couple programs but didn't have potentially space in their current footprint, maybe there was an empty building nearby that they could open a couple programs. The challenge with that is you have to have a program approved and set before you can actually go ahead and open it and put it into place. So it's kind of the cart before the horse type of setup. So the 35 million may not get spent as quickly, but the plan is if they don't have enough takers for that, they'll turn it into these workforce skills grants, and that folks can then, as the competitive process, look to purchase new equipment for their programs. So that's one of the things that for Assabet, over the years, right, we've had the out of district or non-resident tuition income that helped to offset some of those things, capital, some of the equipment purchases, things of that nature. What we do is we aggressively apply for these grants, right? Because we know that we're trying to be as fiscally responsible and keep the burden off of our member communities. Because a lot of that stuff, if you think of our design and visual program, they probably need new Apple, really high-tech, high-test, high-level Mac computers, design Mac computers every 3 years. And obviously, it's not feasible for us because we're not a production company. We don't have a profit that then we can turn into and switch the equipment through. So generally what happens is, and that they're probably the only, I'm trying to think, I think we got 2 areas that use Macs that aggressively. Most of the other places are all, regular Word or HP type documents. So what happens is one location might get them, and then if the other person gets them, it turns into a hand-me-down situation, right? So the other group gets the ones that are new, but they're 4 years old by the time they get them. So what we do is we aggressively look for these competitive grants, and we've been pretty successful in getting them, and we'll continue to do that. So, we'll see what the future holds.
Clearly, we want the students to have the most up-to-date
Yes.
equipment that we can provide so that when they go into the workforce, they know what they've been exposed to that equipment ahead of time.
So page 12. Page 12 is, I call that the money sheet because that's got all the money on it. Basically from the top is the minimum local contribution. This will make more sense, obviously, up February 25th when we come back and we can point to the MLs, the minimum local contribution slide. And you'll see we're saying that's what the state is saying that Berlin will be responsible for, minimum local contribution, which is $545,716. If you move down into the yellow column where it says Berlin, the net busing, the $37,359. That is the cost to Berlin. That would be part of, if you go to the far right, see the total of the $1,107,990. That is the balance of our transportation contract. Our total transportation contract is $2,025,273. We use, I think we added a slight percentage bump, but we're saying the state's going to reimburse us $917,283. And then the remainder that is that 1.1 million that you see there. Berlin's share of that 1.1, based on the 3.4% at the bottom, is the 37,359. Okay, if state transportation reimbursement were to increase, then obviously your number would decrease with the 37,359. But that's a fight that Lynn has been fighting for a long time. And anytime we have any kind of day on the hill at the Capitol, state Capitol, Lynn's brought magnetic buses and magnetic notepads and
I should have brought, I have 200 of those buses, you know.
to try and get them to, you know,
It
'cause-
just says regional transportation aid, and then in quotes, keep the promise. Because they promised us 100%.
When they,
And
when all the
we
schools.
may have gotten that once in the lifetime of the
No.
bill, but
no.
it's always subject to appropriation.
So it's never been at a, you know, it's been at 100% once, but. So that's the net busing. OPEB trust fund, that's your other post-employment benefits. To the far right, we have it at 100,000. Berlin's share of that is $3,372. It had been at 35,000 overall that we had in there for the longest time, and we kind of bumped it up over the years. This is the highest it's been. It was the same last year. I believe it was 100,000 as well. So that's Berlin's share. The capital improvement fund, that's the stabilization fund that was approved a couple of years, 2 years ago, exactly. So that one we bumped up to 300,000. So we said we would share an update of what's happening with that capital stabilization fund. I'm happy to report we haven't done anything with the money yet.
Think driveway, think driveway,
Yes.
think driveway.
We've got the driveways and the roadways. We've got some 50-year-old concrete that we'll have to address with some of our concrete shades that we have. So the money is still there. So this year, once the second installment gets paid, there's about 500,000 in that account. And this would bring it to 800,000. That's capital. So that total of those three items are 50,846. The long-term debt service payment, I mentioned it already earlier, 60,549. There's a couple slides after this that'll give you that breakdown of how we get to that number. And I'll explain that, but your total overall assessment is the 657,111 for FY27. And then it just lists the students down below, 36 and 2 for the post-secondary, total of 38, and then your 3.4%.
So we provide transportation for the postgrads as well?
No, postgraduate transportation is only strictly 9 through 12. And not and it's not any of our out-of-district students. That's all provided by their sending community. Great question. All right, no questions, page 13. So the capital assessment, this was from the renovation project that was completed in 2016. We had borrowed 27 million in FY16. It had actually been 29, but the district had paid for the other 2 million. So they only bonded for 27. The principal payment of 1.1 million is yearly, and then the interest payment of 558,875 reduces each year. So there's a savings of 44,000 from last year, and that's basically paid on July 1st and January 1st of each year. And it's a 3-year average enrollment. So if you look at the next page on page 14, you'll see that Berlin, on the years that you have more students, you're still at 3.65. And then in the year in which you have less students this year, it's still at 3.65. So you'll see that it's a $1,606 reduction from the year prior.
But when we took out the debt, we made it very predictable.
Yep.
And on the next page, you can see the amortization table.
Yep.
And you can tell what you're gonna pay each year until the debt is paid.
2041. So the 3-year average, just to give you a heads up, that was based on enrollment at the time in which the project was approved. That would have been based back in
It's
2013.
part of the agreement that
Yep.
we have with the municipalities that when we do a capital job.
Yep.
The interest will be, or the debt will be, based on the previous 3 years
Mhm.
of enrollment.
So, any questions on that? Page 15?
Nice to see that yellow line moving down the page.
Right? Nice.
That's where we are. We're almost halfway home.
So on page 16, this is kind of just another way to look at that previous colorful slide that we looked at. And it just kind of puts everybody on the same page. So you can see starting at the very top, in the middle column, it says projected revenues FY 27. You'll see state aid, chapter 70 aid, 26, it was 11,883,668. We're guessing that it's going to be 12,209,558 estimating. And then you'll see the minimum down below that, minimum local contribution. That's by community. So you can see what it was for FY 26, 739,795 for Berlin. We're saying it's going to drop 545,716. Again, that all depends on what your aggregate wealth method is and what the state, looks at your last fiscal year. So that. could
And we all
change.
know Berlin is wealthy because they're at the 12.5 reimbursement rate.
Right. So, and then you can see the other communities there. You can see our excess and deficiency. We have 400,000 that we've allocated for that. Interest income, we have 200,000. We've increased that by 50,000. And then Medicaid reimbursement is based on students that require additional services that may be eligible for Medicaid reimbursement. It's not a given on every student that comes in with those. It's really done on a year-to-year basis based on the enrollment of the students that are there. And that's something that's submitted. Sometimes they're approved, sometimes they're not. So that's a moving number. It's been pretty standard at about 75 for Assabet of what we're able to bill, but it all depends on when the students come in. You may have a year in which you have less students, or less students receiving the services, but they may have more services required for that individual student. So.
Ernie, maybe too complicated a question for the, like in a draft, but the activity at the federal level around Medicaid, do you expect any knock-on effect on?
It's
That's a,
Take that.
yeah, that's a,
I guess is as good as anybody else's, I guess.
In the grand scheme, it's at 75,000, so
Yeah,
we'll survive.
so,
I guess.
so the 75,000, and our students aren't particularly needy. Some districts have students, especially the more traditional district, will have students with severe needs so their
Right.
Medicaid reimbursements are tremendously higher. Like they'll be in the hundreds of thousands.
Mm.
But this district doesn't keep the money. The towns in that instances keep the money if they're a town district.
were you asking me to comment on what the federal government's doing?
Mm-mm.
Not in the least. Just asking how serious this number is.
I believe-
projected for
I-
fiscal
I'm comfortable for
27.
this
You
year
know, do we feel
and next year,
a little
but
squishy about that number?
I believe there
Because-
was a guy named Ollie North that said, I don't recall.
Yeah. Whatever, good.
Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, obviously there is still Medicaid
We-
at this point in time, so we'll see what
You'll
happens with that.
Ask you questions, which might not be a good idea.
That's okay.
And it actually takes a lot of money to get that money
Right.
Yeah, it
and
takes
a lot of
work.
time and effort
There's
for the
every-
$75,000.
Yeah.
Every person, speech therapist, every nurse,
Right.
it's required to fill out paperwork. They're required to do these random moments. So each individual person that works with that, so it could be 10 people, all have to do
Yeah.
that to get the full amount. There's a
If the
lot involved.
student's eligible for Medicaid.
If they're even eligible,
Right.
yeah.
Is it that because it's a district, those funds go direct as opposed to coming back to
Yeah.
the
Yeah, because the
towns?
regions,
Okay,
we're our own basic municipalities, so,
got it. Yeah, because we kept the Medicaid funds on the town side in Leicester.
yeah,
Right.
that's
They
why.
were considered a school department. They were. not
Yes,
a
exactly,
Correct.
district. So,
exactly.
okay.
Yep. And then moving down, you'll see regional school transportation is that 917,283 figure I shared with you. Currently in FY 26, we have 914,654. So we had a slight bump that we added to that. Again, that's an unknown, depends on what percentage they fund it in the first place. So we'll see. And then the member community assessments, those are the above minimum assessments. So that's the OPEB trust, that's the stabilization, and then the handicap with the capital stabilization, and then the OPEB trust funds. So and you'll see the Berlin's number there is 111,395. So basically you've got the total budget at the very bottom, which again, the far right shows an 8.3% increase. And then the last slide, really, we have two slides. The second to the last is just our process and timeline. This is our overview of expenditures by function. Last year, if you recall, we had that giant move of health insurance, remember, into this operating budget. Obviously, we don't have that type of thing happening this year because that was about a 1.8 million, if you recall, last year.
Thank you.
Yeah, so so we don't have that confused. The only thing, like we said, was the insurance of active employees, we put a figure in there to kind of guesstimate where we're gonna be. The instruction number is up quite a bit because obviously that's COLAs, that's consumable supplies, things of that nature for the teachers. So not a lot of, and then the transportation, that number's up because that's what the 2.8% increase is from the previous year. So
Are any of these numbers, I know in the past you applied, well, what you have left of out of district revenue that would be applied back, usually was an offset on this. Were
yeah,
any of those-
no, last year was the last year. We did
Last
that.
year was the last year?
Last year we were able to do that, yeah, because with the reduced amount of kids in, we don't have
The study.
we don't have the stability of that funding
Yeah.
source.
Well, you can see from the earlier schedule of where the students are coming from. We do have some out of district, but it's very, very few.
Yeah,
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 24.
we know it was going to zero.
Yeah.
But
Now it's back where it belongs.
Yeah, our district students clearly should be our priority.
So.
Do we have a date as yet for our hearing, budget hearing at school?
We do.
February
We do.
it'll
She
come
was
to
just
me. Hold on a
asking me.
second. February
Do-
10th. February 10th.
Yeah, because it has to be 45 days before Westboro. Is that our first town meeting?
So the night of the school committee meeting on the
Yeah.
10th, we'll have a hearing.
Yeah.
Yep.
On the
Correct.
budget.
So we're having a.
If anybody has nothing to do that evening,
If you want to hear this again.
What's
For the
your number?
25th. And the other thing I should mention too, with any kind of special education costs for our member communities, those are not assessed above and beyond whatever you're assessed in the operational budget. So, that's the enrollment of special ed students when they come into Assabet, it's unknown to us. We have a blind admissions process. Obviously, unless a parent comes to us and says, hey, my student needs X, Y, and Z, we generally don't know. So we don't generally know those factors until the student starts with us in the fall. But any kind of costs associated with those special ed students are basically picked up within this operational budget.
Mhm.
Our out-of-district towns, we charge them a separate cost above and beyond for any students that come out. So obviously, there's a benefit to be part of the district. You got your transportation included, your special education costs are included. And that helps us to educate the whole child, so. And with that, I don't have anything further to add. I don't know if Lynn or Jean has anything else, or if you have any other further questions.
Questions?
I don't have anything. Please.
I've been asking. I think I might have gotten to the end.
We'll answer anything, as you can tell.
Other than-
I've been very proud that the school has, if you look at the other vocational schools, I don't remember us getting any more over 105% for net school spending.
Hmm,
100% would be what you have to pay. The state says you have to pay. The other 5% or whatever, some of them are 25 or 30%.
They have the money that.
Yeah,
Students'
above
education is important.
what-
Over
Yeah.
the.
required
minimum.
minimum, yeah.
Over the net school spending, huh?
Wealthier towns can have, 180%, your Wellesleys, your Newtons.
Mhm.
And sometimes it's not their fault, but sometimes it is. It's always a joy.
Good. Great, thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
appreciate that.
Same time,
The next time I'm hoping
school
that-
district.
And again, if
the
you're not
property
doing
value.
anything February 10th,
Have a right time.
Yeah, very good. I'm hoping that next time we'll start off with a few slides in progress. Since inception, before our budget presentation, so,
I'm about to sneak in and see it one day.
yeah. We'll get
and
you-
we see you again on the 25th of February.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, that's,
Right.
it's on our calendar.
Which I,
Thank you for
awesome.
having us.
Thank you very much, folks. Have a good night.
It's a meet with you.
Meet you as well.
Thank you.
The seats are warm. huh?
I should say, you have to remember, we were up very early because of the weather this morning.
We
were. This day is dragging on.
I rolled over and went back.
I feel like it's been 2 days that we've been doing this.
We had a delay. I went rolled over and went back to bed for 2 hours. Yeah, it's like allergy this morning. I didn't. Yeah. It's nice to be, I'm working, but I don't have to go out, yeah. to work.
Hey, buddy. Bye, guys. See you later. Take care.
Thank you.
See you later.
Good evening, everyone. How are you? Good to see you guys. Happy New Year.
Figure out what's on.
I was tired about 4:30 this morning, so you're gonna have to tell me what it's.
It's been a long day.
We made a good call this morning. I wasn't sure there for a little while, but
Did you have a late start? I don't know.
we did a 2-hour delay.
Does anybody?
2-hour delay, yeah.
Yeah,
I
most of
don't.
the communities.
Some reverted
You
to a
probably
full
got-
day off, and then some didn't do a 2-hour delay at all, which
Oh.
got a little sticky.
That's-
Even the 2-hour delay, it was close, right? Our buses were pulling in and Justin was that. We're always on that line, right? Berlin, Boylston and Worcester are always on that infamous line
Yeah,
there, but
there's a weather line that comes through. When you're on 290, there's a
It's-
place you have to watch yourself.
truly is.
Somewhere around Northborough.
Yeah.
Yes.
I can fully appreciate that from when I used to work out west. Like when they say the 495 belt, like they
Yeah.
absolutely,
Well, the elevation all goes up on
Yep.
290, right? So.
I kept waiting for it to switch, turn over, and then it did for a little while, but yeah, we pulled off. We haven't had a snow day yet, so we've had, I know, I'm sorry. Sorry. Yeah, I know, sorry.
A snow day.
No, listen, the seniors want a snow day as well too. I got a couple emails last night about asking me for snow days today. Sorry, we're.
I
All
did
good.
share the presentation
Okay.
you sent, so folks who are online.
Sounds
can
good.
see it.
Fantastic. So this is the presentation. Should I just?
Yeah.
Jump into it?
Absolutely, go ahead.
I don't wanna
We're comfortable now,
jump
with all
over
of us with each
your
other. We're
weather
good.
talk.
We're good, thank you.
So this is the presentation we provided to the school committee on December 9th. Very preliminary, but we do have some thoughts where we stand with some funds and some costs that are gonna be, mostly challenging as they were last year. Big issue we'll see is health insurance. It continues to be a huge driver for us. So let me start by saying, we do anticipate we'll have the opportunity to spend sort of a typical amount of choice to help support operations. Some additional choice we'll talk about in a few minutes that will support
Choice revenue. What you're.
school choice revenue, yes.
Okay.
So I'm still hesitant to talk about how much I think might be in the choice account. Because I'm waiting for the auditor to come back with we're still waiting for our 24 audit. We finished all of our work in the spring, last spring. They have continued to say, we'll have it in a month, we'll have it in a month, we'll have it in a month. That's been going on since August. I finally managed to have some conversations with them, yesterday, answered some questions. So in all this time, they haven't asked a single question, had a single concern. They finally come back with some questions. I've answered those questions. I'm hopeful, a week or two, we'll have that audit, we'll have that number. I have some guesses, right? And I think we have a very strong balance of school choice. I've submitted, we've submitted our excess and deficiency. I believe we're going to have a solid balance in that as well. So I'm very comfortable putting largely one-time expenses, offsetting some one-time expenses or short-term expenses onto that. So when I speak about that, it's not that I expect us to operate on that, or this is where I expect our money to go in terms of operations, but I think we will have substantial money to put towards probably capital at least this year, and help support the budget a little bit, but I'm still waiting for some final answers on those.
So Aaron, that was gonna be my first question,
Mhm.
was, do you have a fiscal 24 audit letter yet? The answer
Yes,
is-
I wish we did. We are 100% prepped. We've submitted everything for our 25 audit. They won't start, they were supposed to come in November, assuming they had our, actually October. They were supposed to have our 24 audit months and months ago. They had to cancel their field work because they didn't have our audit ready. We're 100% ready for the 25
We've done
audit.
our work, yep.
Everything's ready and.
So is this the same audit firm that did the fiscal 23 audit letter, or did the firm, is it? a
It's
different firm?
the same audit the same auditor the district has used for many
So
years.
they're familiar with us.
They've been bought up a number of times. This is a new company called CBiz. I think they've overcommitted. I am hearing through, I've heard through other business administrators who submitted their things on time,
Mm.
that they waited 6 months or more for their audit to come back. So
Yeah.
I think it has to do, maybe they're growing too quickly. I don't want to speak for them. I know in public, I don't want to.
There aren't many.
But,
Yeah.
you know, we're not the only district that's waited maybe
Sure.
longer than we hoped for to have the audit back. We also recognize we were very late in getting our work done, based on what happened the other year. So I wish I had better answers,
No,
but as
that's-
soon as that's
That,
back, I will share it.
fine,
And-
yeah.
And just for the clear on the revenue of school choice and E&D, we haven't shared a number even with school committee yet, so it's not that we're not sharing with you guys
Yeah.
publicly. We haven't finalized that number yet to be able to share even with our school committee yet, so that will take place.
Well, yes, and I do understand the underlying circumstances with
Yeah.
the fiscal 24
Yeah.
audit and
Yep.
reporting.
I just
and
want
I
to feel
get-
100% confident before
There you
I
go.
start throwing numbers out. Just, for my own peace of mind. I don't want to throw something out that might be inaccurate.
Well, I just have a very high level of curiosity about that particular year.
Yep. Yep,
Which
exactly.
is why I'm like, can I see? it? Can I see it?"
So in general, though, choice, we did end up spending none of our choice money in fiscal 25. So we ended up in pretty good shape. So that adds to our balance, right? So our fund balance, just like a savings account, it's going to grow. So that's another reason I feel like we're comfortable in providing these numbers. We budgeted 850,000 fiscal 26. I'm recommending 720,000. About 450,000 of that will be recurring funds. Those are funds that we expect to get every year. The other 260,000 or so would be used to offset some short-term costs. So we have a number of students who are in out-of-district placements. We have a large cohort of those. So every year we go through all of our out-of-district placements individually. So we look at every student, we look at, whether we might be able to bring them back into district, what their situation is when they age out. We have a large cohort of students who are in that 11th, 12th, or about to age out category. So once those age through, we should, knock on wood, if we keep doing the things we're doing and doing the right things, we should see a drop in our overall out of district. So this is sort of pushing us to do that. We want to make sure that we're doing that. Additionally, in conversation with the special education director, if you look at the timing in which many of those students went out of district, you can correlate that very directly to COVID. Right, so a lot of districts, when we were going through COVID, students, kids who were at home for a year or more, came back and had challenging situations. If they had situations prior, their situations became more challenging and more profound, and they were more prone to be placed out of district. So our hope is that as those students age out, we're going to shrink the pipeline going forward. Additionally, as those numbers are larger than we would hope, we will get reimbursement in future years for those students. So as we bring those numbers down, we have more circuit breaker reimbursement relative to use. So we don't get that money until the next year. So we will have more money to use while the numbers go down. So we feel pretty strongly that we can be in a position where if we commit to support the towns who've been supporting us as those numbers go up, when those numbers come down, we will be able to support the towns in bringing down those assessments a little bit, or at least having them creep up less.
And just, you know, for clarity, when a student goes out of district, there's quite a process it goes through. It just all of a sudden, it's just not a decision that's made, right? We're doing everything we can to provide the services for these students because they're our students, right? And so, you know, there's a process to get there, right? And we try everything we can to keep them in our district. And it's just as complicated and a process to go, when they go out of district, to bring them back in district. It's just as quite a process as well too, but that is our goal, to keep our kids as much as we can in district as well.
Right. So we, as I say at the bottom, we do not have state numbers yet. Those won't come until the very end. Knock on wood, if the budget goes as it should, we should get the governor's budget at the end of January. We will incorporate those numbers into this. Right now, I am using the lowest possible figures for state aid increases and things like that.
You're
So
being conservative in your revenue. estimates.
incredibly conservative, yes. So I'm expecting, you know, we will have some more revenue in that department. I think my numbers for transportation reimbursement are pretty close. I submit our transportation numbers through my end of year report. That has been submitted. That's been accepted. So that number I can approximate a little more closely myself. So moving to the next, I am highlighting, and later you'll see a table including some of our top budget drivers. Homeless and foster transportation, we talked a little bit about this last year. I'm still not aware of any sort of reimbursement for homeless transportation. There's definitely not for foster. But, you know, if anything comes out, this is something that every district right now is dealing with. Homelessness across the state is going up. Foster students in foster care is going up. It's an unfortunate reality that we're facing statewide right now.
And the homelessness is just, it's also doubling up as well too,
Yep.
right? So it could be families that are coming together and living underneath one household.
Does McKinney-Vento provide any additional funding as those numbers go up? Is it an enrollment-based number or is it, okay?
No, and that's one of the challenges of McKinney-Vento is the law provides for the right and the obligation on our behalf to provide that transportation, but it does not provide funding.
It's not.
There are some grants that have been out there for communities that have very large homeless populations. Our homeless population isn't large enough where we would qualify for any of those grants. So I think after our conversations last year, I did some extra digging. I did find those grants, but those we are not eligible for based on our population.
And even that previous presentation that was given by us, but a lot of those grant opportunities, we just don't qualify for,
Yeah.
whether it be our social, our economic status. It just, we don't qualify for a lot, which is disappointing for us. as well.
Question about homelessness.
Mhm.
So what does that encompass? Is that like a family, say, that lived in Berlin or lived in Boylston, and all of a sudden they have found that they can no longer live in that community for whatever reason, and they relocate? out of Berlin or Boylston, but because of the situation, they stay within the district as far as education?
No, there are specific definitions for homelessness. One could just be living in something that's deemed non-permanent. So one of the examples I've given that would be a very extreme is a family that is building a multi-million-dollar house on a hill, but is temporarily living in a trailer at the foot of the driveway. They would qualify as homeless because they're in a temporary housing. Sometimes it's families who are doubled up. So if you are, a family that's struggling, you move in with your parents, you now qualify for homelessness, for being homeless. There are certainly a couple more designations. Janelle, who's our pupil personnel director, is a little more keen to the exact designation. She manages who qualifies for that.
But they still reside in one of the two towns.
They are people who may have resided in
Rough
say
places.
Berlin, but they have doubled up with parents in Lawrence or
So
something
they're
like
lack
that, or
permanent
they've
residence
moved
was-
to a shelter. They may have moved to a shelter in a larger city. Those students have a right to return to and be schooled in the school that they were going to. It's very much for the best interest of the student, right? I mean, they want stability in a time when they're going through possibly some very horrific challenges in their lives. But the challenge becomes now the burden is on us to fund
Yeah.
that transportation.
And we have to
That
be-
transportation can be 300 to or more a day. So that adds up to a lot of money very quickly.
And we need to be extremely careful, right? And these
Yeah.
are conversations about homelessness and who
Mhm.
people qualify and
Yeah.
those conversations that are happening. But there are specific guidelines that make
Okay.
particular students qualify for homelessness. But we don't have that large of a number, although, so we're careful in terms of identifying
Sure, sure.
Right.
Yeah.
for everyone's sake,
So,
right?
Okay.
but are you aware, Aaron, of any distance limitation on that obligation? You know, we're the last permanent residence district.
Yeah.
If we're sending, if we've got a student that's now in
Mhm.
temporary shelter 50 miles away, do we need to
Yep.
pay that transit back? And is there a limit?
So the typical guideline is an hour and a half
Okay,
each
okay, there
direction.
are hours and a half.
Right. So, and that's tough. I mean, you've got a student who's now spending 3 hours on the bus every day, on a van, because we're not,
Right.
providing a bus.
And usually that's not what we want. And those are conversations that, to Aaron's point, Janelle's having with families, right?
Yes.
About what's
Yeah.
best. It's, again, it goes
Mhm.
back to what Aaron says, what's best for the students, right?
Yeah.
So 3 hours on a bus would not be, or having transportation would not be the most efficient for those kids.
Right.
You've never commuted to Boston, have you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. But it's a pretty wide range though,
That's right.
isn't it? It's
Yep.
it's challenging. So our next item is out of district collaborative tuitions. We don't have a significant increase in our private, but our collaborative tuitions, that's through Assabet Valley Collaborative, not the folks who were here. I always get the two confused sometimes as well. But the collaborative runs programs for higher needs special education students. We prefer to send to the collaborative, A, because we're a member, and B, because, well, 3 reasons. B, because they're closer than most of the alternative private programs, keeping students closer to their communities. And third, it is a lower cost per student. So we definitely save money if we can keep them in a collaborative placement versus a private placement. Many of our private placements, though, are $200,000 a year plus for a day placement. That's exclusive of transportation. That's exclusive of other needs. We're finding more and more of these private placements are insisting on a one-to-one paraprofessional, which then can cost another $45,000 to $50,000. We do have one private placement this year that is appealing to the state, and they will probably get it for a 20% increase to their regular day rate and a 30% increase to their summer rate. I believe we have 1 or 2 students in that school now, so we're kind of dealing with the potential that's baked into some of this. Our numbers include anticipated rates this year. So our privates are holding stable, but we're really trying to put kids when we have to into collaboratives when possible. I'm going to say healthcare and regular transportation are 2 items I'm looking at heavily. Employee healthcare, it's very possible I under budgeted a little bit last year. I think we also have increases in the number of people who are taking our health insurance. I think we have a fairly generous program in terms of the share we cover. If you have a spouse who is in a private corporation that is reducing their share or what have you, they're jumping onto our plan. So a combination of factors are really driving that up. I'm taking a really careful look at health insurance this year. I'm also looking to put together a working group to work with our various staff groups, so our teachers, our paraprofessionals, our custodians, to start having some conversations about what our options might be. We're currently with Maya. I think, are you with Maya as well? We had an 18% increase last year. We have a similar increase to our retirees already this year. So I'm projecting at least that big an increase to our employee health insurance. That's at least 36% to our general rates in 2 years. It's just crippling.
Do you do any surcharges for employees that have a spouse that has it available from their employer, but yet come over? Because I know very common now in the
No.
private sector that
Yep.
there's that extra surcharge that if
Yep.
you're not, otherwise all these companies are, raising theirs to leach off another
Right.
company's
Sure.
benefits,
Yeah.
right?
And we don't do it
Yep.
the opposite way as well either, right? So we don't
Pay them off.
increase salaries as well too if they don't take the insurance as well, right? So it's,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So we're at 75-25 across the board. I know a lot of other places have gone to lower percentages for their higher plans, things like that, to encourage people to be on maybe more appropriate plans sometimes. It's a challenge. So I would like to have some conversations about, should we look to other agencies, whether maybe we can find better rates in those. I was part of a self-insurance pool with Hamden Wilbraham. I've compared their rates. Their rates are better. So, is there a chance to find a self-insurance pool? I don't know if there's one out here. What would it take to join or create or do something like that? This is not going to be solved in a year, but it could be something we look at down the road.
What's the cap on that self-insurance? Do you remember?
I don't know offhand what the cap is.
We're also very cautious about these conversations, right?
Yeah.
Because involving the union, right? And
Right,
the other
right,
part
right,
is, as
yeah.
anyone knows, right?
Yeah.
Even with your own homeowners insurance and your own personal insurance, you file a claim or
Yeah.
they're increasing your insurance or either that or dropping you sometimes as well too.
Yep.
So we want to be careful that we're
Yeah, Al, I think the trick is to be in the mid place in the market.
Mhm.
And,
Agreed.
and the public and private markets are different, obviously, and
Right.
I think the private market's maybe less interested in the midpoint, but
Yep.
but still is
Yep.
for
Right.
retention and
And let's be
employees.
honest, one of the appealing things about being in education, right, is they have opportunities for a good health plan as well too, that goes along with that. So
And we're
So-
having these conversations as well. And to your question earlier about federal changes, we had a very lengthy discussion with our Maya representative about the cost shifting that's happening. So basically, the private insurance companies are not going to pick up the tab
No.
for changes that are happening at the federal level and reductions in what they can bill. So they're passing
Right.
that on to the consumer. And in this case, the consumer is the town. So
Mhm.
we've been asked to budget or recommended to budget at 20%
Wow.
of an increase. And we have seen, I believe, somewhere between 3 to 5 employees that have shifted on to town health insurance within the
Yeah.
past 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
As they've face plan, well, some of them are aging out. We
Mhm.
have a lot of young employees,
Yeah.
they're older 26, but some of it is that their spouses' programs are no longer
Yep.
reasonable in terms of cost.
The other part is, and again, we cover them as well too, is our retirees, right? And they're
Mhm.
they're getting the hit, right? Their COLA is on increasing year after year, but yet we're increasing their health insurance for the last couple of years. So they've been hit hard as well too.
Yeah.
Our
It's
former
quite
employees.
possible last year. I'm assuming that people who retired back when Berlin was part of the town are still retirees under your health insurance?
We did not have retiree health insurance at that time,
Oh, okay, so they're not. Okay,
are not.
interesting. Okay.
and we did
So
not
then
allow.
they all just started coming on when we started doing it. So as we increase the number of retirees that we have, though, our retiree counts will be going up year to year, and that's something I need to be mindful of.
Sure.
That burden
So,
was shifted to
Yeah,
the district when we regionalized.
Right,
And not that we can
right.
ask that question, obviously, when we're hiring someone, but we're finding all of our new hires are coming on board, are to your point, right? And to your point, are grabbing the insurance as well too. When it's
I'm
stable at
sure you
75,
guys are
25.
aware, that Maya will be voting at the end of the month whether they're going to cover GLP-1s. And that is going to be a factor in our overall pricing. We've already had a few panic calls from staff members who are concerned that Maya will be dropping it.
My guess
It's-
is they
it's-
will be. Blue
yeah.
Cross dropped it for
Agreed.
non-public or not, people that are on a calendar year, they dropped it effective 12/31/25.
Really?
We happen to go till 6/30/26 because
Yeah.
we run on a fiscal year with our health
Yeah.
insurance, so we're guaranteed to stay on that extra 6 months beyond other people that have been cut off. But my guess
Yeah.
is it's going away July 1.
I'm sorry, what is going away?
Oh, the weight loss drugs,
Yeah.
the GLP-1 drugs,
So,
those are
yeah.
driving costs.
Yeah.
So, again, we're not looking at the long-term benefits, we're
Right.
looking at the short-term profit loss costs.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I thought
So-
that might be what you were talking about, and I said, really?
Yeah, sorry, I should have been
It's,
clear. I should have
it's,
explained what it
it's
was,
a,
yeah.
it's a factor right now. It's a
Yep.
huge factor. It's just- Yep.
So right now, as we stand, very preliminary with numbers that need to be worked. I think if you look at my presentation last year, you'll see these numbers on slide 4 are fairly similar to probably the numbers I provided last year. I haven't directly compared them, but when you're talking numbers this preliminary before we have state aid, it's really hard. I will also be sitting down multiple times over the next couple months with our SPED director to talk about those out of district placements. So this budget, as I shared last year, is a worst case scenario. If every student we think might end up in an out of district placement goes to an out of district placement, this is where we stand. We also have students who we're fairly confident in an out of district placement are on track to graduate. We're assuming they won't, right? If and when they do, they will come off. So again, we just assume for the worst case scenario in all of these situations. Transportation, we assume that we're going to be transporting as many as possible as well for out of district transportation, things like that. We do need to sharpen our pencils and sit down over the number of paraprofessionals we have. Again, I think we're looking at and sitting down with the SPED director, we've talked about where we stand now and what we think the high end of our needs are going to be. I think as we sharpen our pencils and look at what our defined needs will be based on IEPs, it's very hard to do that this early. IEPs go on throughout the course of the entire year. And as we have more and more IEP meetings, we will have more and more understanding of what those students' individual needs will be. Flexing a student who needs a little more occupational therapy is one thing. We have an occupational therapist on staff. So if a student needs a little more occupational therapy, it's not that hard to flex that occupational therapist into it. But if they need a one-to-one, we don't have a choice. So many of the costs that we have here are really out of our control. It's really based in the IEP process for special education. When we're talking about health insurance, homeless transportation, things like that. We have very little in our budget that's really controllable. Everything that's controllable in our budget right now is level funded
Yeah.
at best. I've spoken with the principals about that. I've allowed them to move money around a bit. So, frequently at the high school level, English needs a little more this year, math needs a little less, science needs this. But I've asked them to work within the same numbers. So there've been no real increases. We aren't increasing any of our custodial or facilities costs for supplies, for maintenance, things like that. We are going to do our best to work within those figures.
If I could just talk-
Everything we're
sorry.
dealing with is uncontrolled.
If I could just talk a little bit about that, our IEPs that Aaron's referring to and students that are going out of district, we're now in almost our first half a year of having the Bridges program, right, for students that have disabilities, being housed in our schools. We moved it this year into Boylston Elementary that does still include students from Berlin and Boylston that all attend there. We have two classrooms that exist there now. We did that for transitioning for kids and for cost savings for our staffing as well too. So they're housed all in one location and stuff. So those are students that in districts that I've worked in, even as superintendent, would be going to outside district placements. But we're able to keep them, which is better for families and better for our students to be able to educate them and house them in our school district. So
That's grades 1 to 5, or is it all?
grades, we have it all the way up to we have one in the high school as well too.
So the
Sorry.
consolidation happened at elementary.
At the elementary.
Yeah.
We've always had the Bridges program at the high school as well too.
Okay, so it's in two locations at this point. at the
Right,
Royal
it used to
Center.
be.
Yeah,
There used to be there was one in Berlin, there was one in Boylston, and one at the high school for middle and high. And we condensed the one from Berlin over into Boylston. Students from Berlin attend there as well too.
So do they attend their entire school day there?
Yes, they do. So we're keeping them in district, which is great. And again, instead of having, don't want to get too deep into it, two speech therapists or two occupational therapists coming from both districts are sharing time. It's all condensed into one program and in one school as well too. So it's really working out well. We've been very successful. That was a big move we made last year. We shared that with school committee and with you guys. But we're happy to say that it's been successful as well.
Would you estimate approximately either just dollar amount or percentage of savings? And I know that's hard, but what sort of savings do you generate by bringing it in-house?
I'm not comfortable answering.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
that would be
So-
more Janelle's world. We can figure that out with her and get that.
I'm
to-
putting you on the
So,
spot.
I mean,
that's okay, no
let's
problem.
assume we have 8 to 10 students per classroom, right? So give or take,
Yeah, roughly.
call
roughly.
that.
Yep.
If we were to send those students to an Assabet Valley, an Assabet Collaborative, those students would cost us somewhere in the neighborhood of $60,000 plus transportation per student. If we were to have to send
Per
them
student.
to
Per
per
student.
student,
Okay.
yes. If we were to send them to a private placement, we would be looking at anywhere from $120,000 to $230,000 per student. Just to share
There's a really
this-
ballpark
this-
numbers right
yes,
here.
yes,
Okay,
that's-
just
the
wanted.
that's-
the state provides them with very generous annual increases as well. You may remember, I think I mentioned it last year, I'm not mentioning it again because it's been sort of beaten to death, but towards the end of COVID, every private placement, out of district placement, was given, the state allowed a 13% price increase to across the board based on inflation, right? So as you guys can imagine, if we told you we needed 13% minimum across the board for everything that we
It
do,
was 14, wasn't it?
you'd look at us, like we had,
14%.
like, yeah, it was 14%, yes.
Yeah,
So, as it stands, I believe they're getting a guaranteed minimum 3.5%. But every one of them, as I spoke to the program that's getting a 20% and a 30% increase, they can always appeal to the state, and those appeals are very rarely denied.
But I can get you the number of the savings from consolidating the programs from being at two different locations. I appreciate what Aaron's
That's
number gave you,
additional.
but what it happened at our local level, what it saved us from having the reduction of staff, even transportation, right? Instead of going to 2 locations, it's going to 1 location. So I can get those numbers for you guys to share.
Yeah, I think it improves outcomes as well. Students who are in some of these programs struggle with transitions. So if we're having them transition from lower grades at Boylston to higher grades at Berlin or vice versa, right? It's more challenged. A normal student, right? If you were going a normal functioning student going from grades K to 5, if you had transitions in the middle of your elementary school, that might be challenging to you. To students who have maybe more challenges, that transition can be much more challenging. So the hope is that it will also reduce transitions for those students and give them a better chance at a positive outcome.
Just to make sure I heard it right. So 60,000 would be the cost to send a student to a collaborative.
That's a
out of
ballpark,
district. It's a
yeah.
ballpark,
Yeah.
right, right. And so we have that internal district cost with the Bridges program, but we don't have a number directly on that.
We don't have a per student cost because it's really just, we have 2 teachers, right? Regardless of, whether we have one more student or one less student is kind of another potato in the pot to us, right? But we pay, if we send students out, we are truly paying per
Sure,
student.
sure.
Yeah.
We don't pay per student for this program.
So our net spending per student, that's to NSS is somewhere 18, 19.
Somewhere in there, yeah.
thousand.
Yeah.
So,
And that includes a lot of this, yeah.
I wanted.
so that's average. These kinds of costs would be averaged into that.
Yes.
If you're going out of district with a student, that would be part of that. net
That's
school
part of
spending.
that average. So we have some students who cost us, if you were to figure it out, $5,000, right? The majority of them cost us much less than
Got it,
18,000.
understood.
But when you have even a small cohort of students that are this costly,
Yeah.
right? And this is our challenge all the time is
State metric is not very useful because.
no, your better number to use if you're looking to use a number to compare spending across school districts is your percent over net school spending. So the state puts out.
Is this above minimum?
Yes,
Yeah,
so
okay,
what
okay.
percentage you are above net
Above.
school spending? In fact, I can dig it up a number of years ago, around 2015. I plotted, the Commissioner of Education plotted a graph of cost per student against school performance. And it was just a cloud, right? It was complete random cloud.
That's what I've heard.
I then tracked that information, school performance versus percent over net school spending. It's incredibly linear.
Yeah.
So
Very
let
linear.
me just take you back to the Bridges program and bring you back to
Yeah,
that
sorry.
for a second. So the part that we're happy with, right? Not only do we consolidate financially, but the kids also have, because our goal is to keep our kids in our district, right? When they're in the Bridges program, they're right now being housed in Boylston, 2 successful classrooms being there. The kids have the opportunity also to go into some typical developing classrooms as well too. So there's staffing that goes along with those Bridges program teachers and some paraprofessionals that go along with those students. But like my point of starting this conversation, sorry, is really the cost savings and the support that we're giving these students that are our students, right? And that they're not going outside of our district as well. So that's an important piece, and we're really proud of that. And later on, when Aaron's done and we're done, I know we're talking about a lot of numbers, but I also want to talk about some of the really good things that are happening in our school district, right? What it's really all about, right? I know we're in this table, we're talking about the financial part, but the successes that we're seeing already in our district, and we're seeing with staffing as well too. And I'll give you a little bit of that update when we're done this as well. Okay.
Okay. So again, down below, one of the notes I want to make is, because of some of the transitions we've had, we will be moving curriculum to a district-wide curriculum position. So we've had a curriculum director that's a curriculum director just for Tohoto. And then we've had John Campbell, who's been serving on sort of a stipend basis as the curriculum director at the elementary level. We're going to be consolidating that into a single curriculum director. and that person will be housed in the district office. So it will help with a little bit of cost savings overall. Plus it will provide an additional degree of consistency to the curriculum work that we're doing. So there's definitely, we've definitely noticed maybe some disconnects in elementary versus middle high school curriculum planning and things like that. And, you know, some of that comes from pre-regionalization.
Yeah.
Some of it comes from sort of that lack of consistency from pre-K to 12.
And so as Aaron mentioned, Lisa Sequeira, who used to be our high school principal at Tohoto Middle High School. She is now in the curriculum director role, grades 6 through 12. She'll, like when John retires, at the end of this year, as he has announced to us, Lisa will take that whole role on. So she'll be from pre-K all the way to grade 12, which is very consistent with most districts across the state, never mind across the country. It's usually one curriculum director that works. Rich Cameron is now our new appointed principal of Tohoto High School. You might have met him numerous times before as the assistant principal. Again, our job as educators also is to promote from within, right, and create a bench. And along with that, so Rich is now in that new role at the high school. And we hired starting this week, actually, a new assistant principal to fill Rich's spot, Maureen Rose, who comes to us from Worcester with a ton of experience. We're thrilled to have her join our team as well too. So those are some changes that have taken place in the leadership roles across. But to Aaron's point, consolidating that curriculum director, having one across our district, not only will that save us financially, but also will improve our curriculum. We did our strategic plan survey. Some of the results are coming back. We're looking at them. The biggest concern that people had across from our teachers to our parents was a disconnect with our curriculum. And so that's one of the ways that we're making some changes, both financially and academically as well.
So I think sort of my last regular slide, but I'll jump into some of the others, is actually Kristen provided us some really good recommended reading from the Mass Municipal Association. I think it speaks to what I know you all are facing. And we're facing it as well, is sort of the lack of funding, you know, through sort of the Prop 2.5 process, this changes in state aid, and where we sit relative to the rest of the country, relative to how much state aid is available to support towns relative to what you're bearing the burden of yourselves. And that's it's challenging because the state is expecting more and more out of towns in terms of funding their school districts. The states are providing less and less aid. They're providing less and less unrestricted aid and things like that. And there's, I mean, I with just to say it, there has to be a reckoning at some point, right? We as a school district can only cut so much. You guys can only cut so much to support the budget that we've already cut. And that's going to come to a head at some point. I don't know where it's going to be. You know, I'm also going to say years ago, school business administrators put together a list of unfunded mandates and provided it to the state over and over. And I think at some point as a group, we just gave up. And I don't know where that list sits, but when we talk about McKinney-Vento, right? The homeless transportation, it's the right thing to do, but there's no money for it, right? All of these things are just adding and adding and adding to what we need to do. And that burden falls to us, but then it falls to you because our funding comes from you. Our state aid doesn't go up significantly year to year. Or significantly enough to cover those additional costs from those mandates. So, I wish I had an answer. I wish I could, provide some advice, but I can't.
To your point, my friend behind me is like regional transportation, right? So you must have a better memory than me because I don't even remember once that we got 100% regional transportation reimbursement, right? And that was
Sure, it was even one.
yeah. That's why when you said one, I whispered over to Aaron. I got to go back and look because We
Right.
never have received that, right? And that was one of the caveats for becoming a regional school district. And I've been working in a regional school district for many years now. And we never received that. But yeah, transportation keeps going higher and higher, and we're not getting the 100% that was promised to us, right?
Well, in that report, A Perfect Storm, there's one takeaway, if no one else, nothing else, and I love that report
Mhm.
because it's what we have all been talking about for years, but it was actually put in with graphs. And
Mhm.
it's explanatory to a public that doesn't understand municipal finance. There are 50 states, as we all know. We are the 13th lowest state funded. Sorry, I'm saying that right. Local state aid share. We are the 13th lowest in the country. We are below the US average. And we're not alone. There are other New England states that are in this as well. So when you look at other states and what the state is actually funding at the local level, it's frankly absurd. And so the main, UGA is, I love that word. It's such a weird word, but the unrestricted government aid is what MMA is pushing for.
Yep.
They have the ear of the Healy administration. We are at 2008 levels of UGA. They've gone backwards, and that doesn't even account for inflation.
Yep.
So that is our main move.
Krista, did you notice the state that was at the number 1 in that chart?
Yes, and I had an interesting conversation about that. That would be the state of Vermont.
Yes.
Over 60% of their budget
Wow.
comes from state aid. I have the graph right here.
Oh, so you mean number one, like at the top for
Correct.
receiving state
Amongst
funding?
among the states in the United
Correct.
States,
Okay.
it's the one
All
with
this
the
maple
highest
syrup
amount.
taxes.
But-
It's not a lot of business.
But
in
yet,
Vermont.
yet Massachusetts is still one of the highest performing educational states in the entire country, right?
Correct.
So if you think about that, right, where we fall financially and where we go, we're performing.
And we're limited by Prop 2.5.
That's right.
So this is where the disparity comes in.
Yeah, you go back to Aaron's, the graph is a cloud, but when you take above the minimum level, so people are thinking, but they're really cutting it to the bone. What I'd love to see, looking at, over a period of years and looking at the, particularly the individual education, special education, transportation mandates, those
Mhm.
areas, looking at those, I really would love to see. To me, there's a thumbnail formula
Right.
that local is picking up 70%, state's picking up 30,
Yeah.
big picture on
Mhm.
public
Yeah.
education. I'd love to see that ratio flipped,
Mhm.
because a good deal of what is unpredictable in our budgets has to do with the things we must do
That's
because the
Mhm.
state has said.
Yep.
That's where the unpredictable stuff is.
Yes.
And so that's why it's particularly annoying that we have
Yes.
to live with the current
It is.
Right,
funding.
and I
ratio.
will say that state mandates just made our IEP process significantly more challenging. So they cut our timelines, I believe, in half.
Yep, 5 days now.
To produce after we have say an annual meeting or an IEP meeting. That is designed to help produce that IEP. It's a collaboration between families, teachers, the sped professionals. And from that, we derive an IEP. That IEP needs to be completed and in the parents' hands, I believe, within 5 days. And then we have a period in which we have to have that signed and back, and there's a whole lot of process to that. So we are incurring additional costs to try to get those done in a more timely manner. I can't speak to what that cost is,
Sure.
but we are much more rushed to get those done than we've been in the past.
To your point, that's where we need your help, right? So we've been fighting that fight as superintendents and business managers for my entire career of 30+ years, right? That's where the towns and the government level help with our representatives and our senators, like really pushing that.
Well, who's ever tuned in tonight,
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
these
I'm sure they're all-
unfunded
It's-
mandates.
It truly is.
It
truly is.
Roland Boylston is.
Yep.
Okay.
That
Well, they didn't go out
You
today.
know,
It was
it
freezing
brings
rain,
out like,
Yeah.
sometimes it makes me want to cry.
That
They
we
might.
have no control over,
Right.
right? That we have no control over.
Yeah.
And even particular being a regional school district, or not, as opposed to sometimes even being a municipality, right? And you're talking about insurance and all those other things that we're overseeing all that.
And the towns have mandated spending as well.
That's right.
So
With
we have,
significant limitations.
Yeah.
with the
we're
state.
all managing them.
And we
Public
understand that the police are doing the same, right? The same
Yep.
things are happening in their world, and the fire is happening in their world, and the highways. like, we understand that, right? We just on the pluses of our school district,
Mhm.
even the work that the highway department did from both Berlin and Boylston today, right? To be able to have, you don't realize the financial cost of having an additional school day, right? Not that that's a pain in my decision at all, when I make a decision of a 2 hour delay or opposed to of a full non-school day, but the work that they're doing, right? And getting our roads ready for our kids to arrive school safely, right? It's all part of it. So, kudos to them. We have a great team that working on that as well too for the towns.
Now, something I'm curious about is just, do you have the current enrollment numbers for the schools? Like how many students are at each school?
I probably should have that for you, but I can send that to you.
Until the 25th.
Don't
Sure.
have that in front of
It's
me. now.
nothing,
We'll
I'm
get
just
that.
always
Yeah.
curious about the number of students.
In each
Yep.
school. And then I'll break up to Tohoto also for Berlin students and.
That would be
Boylston students as well,
appreciated,
too. Yep.
yes.
Well, and the last thing I just want to say about this is I was actually going to mention this to you all afterwards, but Aaron brought it up and it's timely. You know, the state has had an increasing amount of new revenue from the millionaire's tax, from cannabis.
Mhm.
You know, and I think more of that personally needs to be shifted to schools and towns, because what's happening is you're creating this like school town divide and pressure, right? Are we gonna be team public safety or are we gonna be team school? Because let's be realistic, public safety is the biggest part of any town's budget. So it's all over the state. It's literally created, like, I feel like we're in like a movie,
Right.
you know, which team are you on?
Yeah.
So if
It's
we're gonna make
frustrating.
money on dope, maybe we
Mhm.
should apply that money to educating
on
our
that.
students.
Right, or, you
Oh,
know,
oh,
one
oh,
times. I mean,
Right.
saving
Now?
roads. That's where I'm at. I mean, 20% tax on recreational cannabis. The state does not need all of that revenue.
Bring it
Where
in.
is it going?
I don't think it's
That's
going
the big
anywhere.
question
A lot of
statewide
it's
as
going
well.
to the state.
Most of the rest of the slides are informational, give you guys sort of a sense of some of the details. There are a couple capital slides, slide 12 and slide 14 speak to Berlin Capital and Tohoto Capital. We have met with the
Yeah.
capital committee, and we have shared those needs with them.
The Berlin's capital committee. or-
Berlin,
Yeah.
yes, the Berlin
Okay.
Capital Committee. They're with that. I would like to point out, we don't presume to think that the town is going to be excited to pay for a parking lot expansion at the moment. That's on the list. We know, we still don't have anything on that grant. Like we haven't, there's,
Nothing from the
Okay.
state.
We have not received.
yeah,
anything.
we've not received anything from the state.
I can connect you up with the
Yeah.
better. I thought I mentioned that to them and they still haven't.
It keeps
Yeah,
getting mentioned and
we-
every now and then someone
You
says
got
to
the
us,
assurance that it was coming, but we
Ah,
just haven't received anything like,
documentation,
how do we
okay.
get it? How do we access it?
and let's be clear, even
Um,
though it's still a priority for not only for our school
Yeah.
committee as well, to the parking lot. If you go into any events there that are taking place
Mhm.
there, people are parking on Route 70 and
Agreed.
it is, our
Yeah.
kids are having, when there are events and there's basketball
Yeah.
games, like it's a concern, right? There's not enough
Yeah.
parking there. It's all, it's working until it's not
Yeah.
working, until someone, God forbid, gets in an accident or pulling out in the Route 70, because it's just
Yeah.
definitely, we
Yeah.
do not have enough parking space.
Yeah.
We use our facilities a lot for private events as well too, that we rent out. And we're filling up those spots as well too.
Yeah.
Also could be revenue. If we had more spots, we rent them to kids, right? They pay for parking spots. So all of that is is definitely a priority and if we have this opportunity with this $100,000 grant that we've heard multiple times, we don't want to lose that money, right? Coming from the state that's earmarked for this parking lot. We want to make
So
sure.
realistically, we would use the 100,000 to do pre-work.
Design.
Engineering, design, we have a very generalized design that was performed on a volunteer basis by an engineer. Of course, we would need a true design by a fully insured stamped engineer. Then we would also look to put it out to bid, get real pricing quotes, things like that. That's quite a bit off, but the 100,000 could be used for all of that pre-work that we'd need to do. And I believe understanding is that grant wouldn't expire in June of this year. There'd probably be an extension year.
That I don't know,
Okay.
because it's a little different, I think, than a normal state earmark.
Yeah.
Which normally you have to spend by June
That's right.
30th.
Right,
And that could
right.
also be part of the delay. They're still rolling out the state earmarks. We haven't gotten ours for
Yeah,
26
okay.
yet.
And it's a little different than
Fair
just
enough.
rolling out blacktop, right? Because of
Yeah.
the reservoir, right? So they're huge guidelines for us. But that always played into getting the $100,000, right? That it was earmarked towards being environmentally the right way to do it. So
So would you, we've got 600,000 listed there in the slide, and we've got the footnote with the 100,000 grant that we anticipate. Would you look at that as a multi-year
yes,
and present
Probably.
it in a final budget as a multi-year? And then the other question, it's not a request because the fall town meeting Berlin voted on the roof funding
Mhm.
Berlin Memorial, but that's not 100% of the cost of that project. We voted 340,000.
350.
350.
so that's for the other half of the roof, right?
Yeah.
We already did one half of the roof 5 years earlier. This is for the second half of that
Okay,
roof,
okay.
right?
That's.
So there's,
Yeah.
so the large portion of that roof is flat. The flat portion was done. This
Yeah.
is the shingled
The shingle
portion.
portion.
Yeah.
So it's not mentioned here. I know it's not a request, but should it be footnoted or something? Is it?
About the-
That was funded?
Well, yeah.
Okay,
it's-
yeah.
I mean,
I'd be happy
But wait a
to.
minute, that was funded through the towns, right?
Yeah.
So that wasn't
So-
funded through school budgets, right?
exactly.
was
That's
the-
why I know it doesn't belong in.
Right.
That's right. So I want to be careful of putting it here.
But I think for people in the town, it's useful to know that's one of the capital projects the school
was in
district is
there.
doing.
It was
Right,
actually on
right.
there and capital asked for it to come off because it had been funded.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
they
okay.
actually, yeah, they did include it and they say, can you guys remove it? Because it's no longer a request. So it was artificially inflating the request, but maybe a footnote.
Yeah.
But I
would
can
be
put a
appropriate.
footnote note saying that, the town has already funded a 300 and some $1,000
Yeah.
roof replacement in their October
The
special
November
town
town
meeting,
Yep.
November.
Yeah, November.
Mhm.
Because I will tell you the capital plan, and you've got the numbers there, but I have the actual breakdown for the Berlin cost. It's total, including the parking lot, is $429,000.
Yeah.
And $77. So it's 100,000 for BMS and the balance for Tohoto. Capital recommended everything but the parking lot,
Okay.
And the other,
Okay, right. We don't have a liaison at the moment. so-
not at the moment. So that's why I wanted to share that with you.
the other footnote about
Now-
that roof, it's a 50-year shingle roof, right? So hopefully, I'm not sure if anyone, all of us who will be here in 50 years, right? But we won't have to worry about it at that time as well. So we're
Right.
putting it in
So
good
this
hands for the
comes
future.
to, as we talk about E&D and funds like that, where that gets placed, you all consider both Tohoto and Berlin Memorial Capital to be part of capital. Whereas Boylston considers Tohoto Capital to be part of operations. So there's a little quirkiness there in who's got money to give for certain things. And that leaves us in a weird position. So when I did these numbers and I threw out that 750,000, I kind of applied it just to the operating side of things, just so as you're looking at assessments, I would probably put more of that. I guess I don't know, because if I put it, I'd put it to Tohoto Capital probably to clear the slate on Tohoto Capital, but then you guys would consider it capital and Boylston would consider it operations, which makes it a little quirky.
Right,
Right.
we put it all in
So,
the budget
yeah.
as one, but we break it out.
Yeah.
I mean, I
Right.
think it'll be interesting to see when the audit comes back and your excess and deficiency
Yeah.
levels, because to me, that would be a great use of one-time funds
Yeah,
for
yeah,
excess and deficiency.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess the problem is it would help Boylston
But-
from an operating
right, but not-
standpoint,
Yeah.
but not you guys for an operating standpoint. So
Oh, I see what you're saying.
right, so that's where I'm
Yeah, yeah.
getting to is I don't always know where to put that money in the
Right.
moment.
It's
Right.
almost
I
a question
mean,
of can they pull it out and put it
yeah.
in an article like we did for the roof?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's both, it's off the operational side. on
So
both.
anyhow, we'll continue those conversations. The goal is not to solve it today, but just to give you an
Mm-hmm.
understanding of that it can be a little quirky.
Sure.
So what questions do you have for us besides what we
I
presented? So
just have one quick one
Sure.
just on the parking lot expansion. What is your what are the number of spots you already have and what are you looking to
Yeah.
expand to? You have a
Yeah.
general number?
Another great question. I know, that's why she's here. Come on up here, Beth.
That was exactly, yeah.
I do have that number. I just don't have it with me. Sorry, but
60?
I think 71.
70 something is in.
70 maybe?
I hate giving exact
You
numbers in
have
public though. No, we
No.
additional 71 spots will give us
Well,
with this
additional
parking lot
ones, yeah.
expansion.
Is that like doubling or? a
Oh,
third? I mean, what is
I-
that? Like-
maybe.
Hottest parking spot is 101.
I-
It's her numbered
I think-
spot in the building.
Assuming it goes 1 through.
I
100.
want to say, and again, I hate doing this, but I want like 151. I want to say something like that, and they're looking for 71.
Okay, so about 50%.
Yeah,
increase.
I can get you that exact number as well too. Sorry.
So Al, when you look at the school, is it gonna be added on the left, the right, the back?
So they already have a design for it. So when you're looking at the high school itself, you face on 70, it will be on the left-hand side.
Okay,
So it'll be the closest part of to Route 70. So in that area, there's like a little monument there right now. There's a stone there. They'll put it right there. But again, it's not going to be a permanent structure, right? That was what the architect was working on because we were working with the reservoir.
DCR.
DCR, thank you.
DCR.
I worked-
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Was it
Yes.
DCR
Yeah,
or-
DCR, that's
we're
DCR, yeah.
Yep, we're
Okay,
working with
okay.
DCR and the type of materials that we could use to making sure. So it
they
wouldn't be,
prefer it not to be impervious.
that's
have
right.
it- have
Yes,
it
it's a
so it-
porous sort of
porous.
pavement.
Yep.
It's not like trap rock. We had concerns about the possibility of doing trap rock and plowing and
Mhm.
things like that. We don't want to push the whole parking lot material into the playing fields if we plowed. So this is kind of an impervious, permeable.
That's right.
Surface.
And it
Yeah.
won't break the curbing of Route 70, right? So that would
Mhm.
cause another whole issue. So they'd still come and enter and exit through the entranceway
Mhm.
to Route 70, but the parking would be there. So to answer your question, when you're looking at the high school, all the way to the left, right, almost in front of the fields, right there.
Mhm.
Which by the way, the fields coming on really nicely. We'll have some nice fields for in the springtime as well. Other questions? I'll get you that number as well too. I'm getting you the numbers per individual school in Tohoto,
Yeah.
broken up, Berlin, Boylston, and the exact number of parking spots. Anything in your notes? I'll get it for you. Other questions that I might not have the answers to, but we'll get for you.
Well,
You know, what might be nice on those numbers too, Al, of the students, is if it's an increase or a decrease from last year's numbers.
Sure, absolutely. Yep. From the, I can tell you there's an increase, right, from the number of seniors that graduated last year to the amount of kids we took in kindergarten this year. So overall, I can tell you our numbers have increased at the overall in our district.
Yeah.
Probably one of our lowest graduating senior classes was last year. Mm.
Yeah.
It happens like this peaks. We have a 4th grade that for next, that's coming, that's going to be a big class. It
Mm.
just depends on the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else can I show you? It's really been a good year. Started off, we've had some excellent things happening in our school district. We're in the process of hiring a new principal for Berlin Memorial. We put the process out through School Spring. We received 16 fully vetted applicants that have applied. So we're starting that process, working with the staff and families of Berlin as well as the school committee. So we're beginning that process. We want that to happen soon so that this way we can get that person in place so they can transition with John Campbell as well too. So we're doing that. We've had 3 openings that we had to hire some teachers as long-term subs this past December, right? Whether through health issues and a couple other things, to be able to have high-quality teachers that are applying in December. And that's the bar, right? I will not look at anything but making sure we have high-quality certified teachers that are replacing when we have, whether it be maternity leave, health concerns, reasons that they're not in the building. That's one of the things that I think we owe our kids to make sure. But for us to be able to recruit people in December, high-quality certified teachers that are SEI endorsed, is huge. And so for us to even gather those people and have them employed and starting work this past Monday, was huge for us. So we're just goes to show that our reputation of our district is really good and people want to come work for us as well too. So we're proud of the work that all of us have done here. So thank you for that. Other thing is, school committee, I don't want to speak for them, but, they're in final contract negotiation with a new superintendent for starting July 1st. Brent Conway, so they've gone through that process. He'll start July 1st. I'll work with him, transitioning with him until August 31st. And so we'll have a couple months that we'll be able to make sure that they could do some introductions to you guys and work with that as well too. So that's taking place.
And we're signing our teacher's contract.
But yeah, teacher's contract is, we're done, which is great. Yep, we finalized at 3.33 right? So it's good that we'll have that finally taken, signed off and done at our next school committee meeting, which will be taking place on this coming up Tuesday.
What's going on?
Yeah, it's been a busy, but it's been some really great things happening in our school district. I'm really, really happy about that as well. Other questions?
We vote in May at the Berlin Memorial? No. Are we doing that?
September.
No, but we worked on our school calendar today. We're finalizing that. We'll be bringing it to the school committee in Union. But we put our first political day, November, the 3rd?
Yes, November, sorry.
No,
fall, the
November
fall,
will
yeah.
be taking place at Berlin Memorial. So that will be our first, one of our professional learning days for our district as well too. So we're excited to work that calendar out. So the elections will
So we're just
take
gonna make
place.
sure we don't have students in the building
Yeah.
that day.
There might be adults, but there won't be children in there as
Right.
well too. But even then, we'll probably be looking at, again, that'll be the next superintendent will be looking at that, but having that professional learning taking place at Tohoto as well too.
We
So-
wanted to have that in enough time so that they could get it on the school calendar, and logistics are obviously much easier if there aren't students and they can do a professional development day or
Yep.
something of the equivalent that day.
And,
So-
and it works out. This is not a presidential election. We're slowly getting into it, right? So it's going to be a sort of an easy transition for us politically to have the elections take place in
It's a
May.
good time for us to have a professional day anyhow.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Was there a reason why we're moving it there? I mean, now with.
Oh, so many. I don't want to speak for everybody who was involved there. I would say 90% of the folks were really excited about the opportunity of the location.
Parking, access,
yeah,
handicapped
students being
accessibility,
involved potentially
all
from
of
a
that.
volunteer standpoint, getting out that education early about voting. Most towns do it at schools. It's typically.
We have
how
staffing,
it's
we
been
have
done.
custodians that are there in the building as well too. Well, they came out and looked at our site to make sure it was accessible handicap wise as well too. There were just a number of reasons they approached us and asked if we could use. A lot of times it's very common, right? In Worcester Public Schools and a lot of school districts, they use their schools. Goes back to the teaching of it, about students and voting and getting them ready for that. Even we did in Hamden, Wilbraham, they set up the voting booths a day early, right? So kids got to vote, right, on the election days and stuff like that. Yeah, it was cool. They literally went to the ballots, right? And they cast, it's all part of that. We're also hoping bring back good old fashioned bake sales, right? There's revenue as well for schools as well too, and people are coming in to vote, right? So there's a number of different reasons. We'll be having that similar conversation with Boylston as well too, right? So that looking to use the schools as well.
Yeah, cause I've never seen a line, let's put it this way, especially now with even more with mail voting too, it's,
Mhm.
I remember
Trams
the
down
first
there.
time I came out to Massachusetts, usually it wasn't, our district was never done in schools, but I was living in Hudson at the time, and the street address and where the voting was, I remember I was just walking through the elementary school, the kids are in class going, where am I? I clearly was in the wrong spot because it had to be another location.
Yeah.
Because now people would probably have every door locked or anything like that.
Yeah.
or Be calling the police because this person.
Yeah,
walked into
sure.
the school.
Yep.
But that was my first experience with it because.
Looking lost.
Yeah, exactly, looking lost, going, is there supposed to be voting? Is
Yeah.
that,
Yep.
and
So that's why we're aligning our school calendar up with professional learning days. The other part is people come to town meetings at the Berlin Memorial, right? It's the new roof we're putting on for the community, right? This will also be the place that they vote on as well too, so.
And we're cramped
will the bridge
downstairs.
be done by then? So now everybody's going in one way?
I would say fall 27, it will be done.
So it will
Oh,
not
that
be
bridge,
done.
That would be perfect.
Yeah.
Football team, right, made it all the way to the Super Bowl, right? So we're really proud of them as well too. We're doing a nice celebration for them at our school community, recognizing them. Some great students from both Boylston and Berlin as well too. So a lot of really exciting things.
Yeah. It was a big year for them.
It was. Yep. Okay.
It was. Well, I appreciate this.
Yes.
Just like last year, we're just gonna keep picking away at it and we'll update it very regularly. If you have questions, please reach out directly to me. I'm happy to answer everything and anything, and we can have conversations ad nauseum.
I assume we're gonna continue to work through Kristen communicating.
Oh, sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're gonna
yeah,
use that line of
Yep.
communication.
Yeah.
If we have
Yeah.
a thought that occurs.
Sure.
along the way.
Yep, send
Yeah.
it my way and I'll
Yeah.
get it over.
I
to
cold
you.
call her on a regular basis anyway, so she knows that, right?
I
So,
don't mind.
yeah,
I
we-
can't always pick up
Yeah,
and I feel
no,
bad,
But
but
we all know that.
Okay.
I think I texted you this morning as well, too.
yes, thank
I
you.
was
I meant
texting
to
everyone
thank
at
you for that.
4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, like, there's a lot of texting going on. My wife's like, what the heck is going on right now? But yeah, it's been a pleasure
Yes.
working
Thank you.
with
Thank you.
Kristen
Really
as well, too,
appreciate
so
it.
it's that. But we'll get you that information that you asked for.
Yeah.
Either tomorrow or the next day, and go
Great.
get that through Kristen for you
That's
guys.
great. Thanks for,
Thank you so much.
thank
Okay.
you for,
Okay.
Take care.
a long day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Thanks, everyone. Happy New Year. Yep.
The new year started off just busy.
Yes.
That's right. Doesn't slow down.
Yes.
Sharon.
Oh.
Take care.
Oh,
Take care. Thank
Thanks.
you.
thanks, guys. Oh, you got business for us to do?
I don't.
Transfers.
I will next week, but right now I don't. I will give you one preview. We are gonna need a reserve fund transfer for legal. That is trending at
bet.
about $8,000 a month. We have highway union negotiations going on. We are in litigation. The Conservation Commission is dealing with some litigation right now from a property owner. And we have, there's a third thing that I was completely slipping my mind. I will find it, but there are a number, so we really scaled back on the legal this year in an effort to try to save that
Yes.
funding in the budget, and with the understanding that we would likely have to go to the reserve fund if something unanticipated came up, and of course, they have. So we are in negotiations with the highway union. They are represented by the Teamsters, and that is an ongoing process right now.
Can you
Okay.
can you elaborate on the thing going on with conservation and a property owner without giving names?
Sure,
obviously?
it's been filed. So there was an issue, a land use issue with a property owner, and they were encroaching into the CR, the conservation restriction land. And the property owner disputes that they are. Conservation Commission asked for a survey. My understanding is they were unwilling at the time to provide that. So Conservation really tried to give them an extension, but there's been a cease and desist in place since the summer until the boundaries and what's being built can be worked out. And the good news is we believe that we filed a counterclaim in court. And the parties have now come to the table and are going to be having discussions at an upcoming conservation open session meeting, I believe on is it the 21st? Is that a Wednesday? It's coming up sometime
7th.
right around there. So I think the crux of it is this is one of the first conservation restrictions in the town. It goes back to the 80s. And they're trying to uphold the wishes of the property owner who originally put that CR in place. And much like when we dealt with Highland Ridge, I think that there is a sort of theory out there that if you will, that a small town will sort of just keel over the minute you say litigation. And I think it's very important that we make it clear that we may be small, but we pay attention to things and we stay on top of things, and we're not going to allow any sort of development to run roughshod over the town. And that's really the gist of it. I mean, that we think they're at least 80 feet into the CR. So,
Okay.
and that's all been discussed in open session. You can go back and watch Conservation Commission meetings on YouTube if you'd like some more information about that.
Something else you might have intel on, I've seen it obviously on social media about the Solomon Pond Mall property.
Yes.
Anything true about what's going on with that, or is it all hearsay, or?
It's been sold, except for the anchor stores. The anchor stores own not only their store, but the associated parking areas next to them. Don't have any information on specifics. I have heard it might be light manufacturing. it's a good thing, I think, that it's no longer in receivership and it's been sold and there will be some redevelopment there. Hopefully will raise the value of the mall, which will bring in more taxes because as we all know, that commercial devaluation has harmed us and harmed the residents substantially in terms of increasing taxes on the residential side. So I'm hoping that will offset some of the devaluation that's happened there, but no specifics at this time.
So,
Do
so
the cinemas go with the sale? Sorry. Regal Cinema?
Oh, that's a great question.
Oh,
I don't know. I can find out.
well, that was my next question. What, I mean,
Can you not go to the movie
what are
anymore?
the, no, what are the acre stores? I mean, is it,
Oh, Sears, Macy's, and JCPenney.
and that was gonna be the question, is Regal one?
I will find out about the theater.
Because the mall owners were, what did they call themselves?
Is it Art, Simon?
It was
Simon,
Simon, then it
Simon.
went into,
Now it's like
receivership
Columbia or
and-
something like that. It's a California company.
yeah, it's been a bank,
Took them over.
a number of banks, and then there's a
Mm-hmm.
property management company that has been involved for a while, so. One other thing I can say that's good is, we quickly captured the attention of Benderson with our drive-through, passage at special town meeting. I sent out an email and about 5 days later, we had a Zoom. And I've been trying to get Benderson's attention for the 3.5 years that I've been here. So they are in the process of doing a parking study and looking at spaces for, the drive-throughs that might be able to go.
Who is
up there.
Benderson?
I'm sorry, the owner of
Highland
Highland Commons.
Okay. Okay.
So that could potentially generate some revenue. That's not a short-term generator, but.
That sounds like what, putting more buildings in where the parking lots are.
So, right, both Hudson and Berlin sides are operating on a parking variance, but it's still much larger than sort of the modern format of the malls really use. If you look over by like, say, the PetSmart side, that chunk of parking over there is generally often at 30% of capacity of what it could be. So one thing they talked about is the possibility, and obviously this would require an amendment to the overlay district, which would go to town meeting. Would they do kind of what they did with like the 110 grill and add kind of like an arm that's all pedestrian connected as well? I don't know if you guys have, there's some malls out, I want to say Chestnut Hill, that's not the right one, but out that way towards Boston that have that model. And that's really, they're doing well. They say it's an A retail development in their profile. I guess that malls are rated on a scale of A to D. And that one is doing exceptionally well. So some continued growth could be beneficial. And we have seen any turnover that's happened be quickly taken up by other vendors. So it's a good spot.
Well, it seems like everything just moves from another location over there. I mean, from the legacy of TJ Maxx, the paper store. I mean, there's not a lot of like new things where somebody doesn't come in and somebody else isn't closing
Yeah.
someplace else. I mean, you see it even Route 20. I mean, it's like Marshalls comes in, when the Office Max goes out, but they close the other Marshalls.
Right.
Like,
At least the
and-
paper store was in Hudson and now it's in Berlin.
Well, yeah.
So
I
I'll
mean,
take that.
But it's a lot. I mean, only ones that's been, if anything, is the it's called anchor stores there, like Cabela's, Lowe's,
LLB.
BJ's.
Yeah.
Well, even BJ's was, I guess when they got rid of Westboro, they added Northboro and ours, so I guess there was an increase of one.
We have certified free cash yet?
We do not. Very soon, I hope.
It's all been submitted. We're waiting on the state. We're in a queue now.
Hmm.
So, and the holidays, of course, slow
Yeah, yeah,
things
sure.
down, so. But no, everything's been submitted. We are just waiting. The estimate that June and I felt comfortable, and we're gonna do our estimate giving to
Estimate,
capital
estimate.
on free cash was approximately 2.5 million.
Hmm.
And part of that is, we had a capital article that, I'll take the hit for the first year I was here. We had capital in the budget as well as in an article for the schools. That money actually had to then be held and set aside because of the way the vote happened. That money is now rolling forward in our free cash. That was about $600,000. So that's really just a one-time offset. We
And
won't see
did
that in
turn
future
back
years.
Free cash that hadn't been spent, so that was also a
Correct.
seed money.
Yep, but I envision we will see after this year, our free cash numbers start to dwindle since we level funded the budget from FY 26. I'm sorry, from 25 to 26. We're crossing 3 fiscal years right now, so my brain goes a little haywire.
Yeah, I have a lot of trouble with that,
Yeah.
remembering what year I'm in.
Yeah, 26, though, we did a lot of cuts that we're finding now.
We're struggling. Yeah.
We may be very much struggling.
Yeah, I mean, I said to the select board,
Yeah.
and we can get into this more too, but there is nothing to cut on the
Yeah.
expense side anymore at all. In fact, we're gonna have to add some back in. If
Well,
we,
that was very clear. That was my
Yeah.
no vote last year on the PVRSD was, I saw that.
Yeah.
And,
that, so yeah, it leaves personnel. And we are, you know,
Yeah.
1 to 2 manned offices, you know, so there's no place to cut there. So we're facing, a lot of challenges, and I feel like we've shortchanged the folks on the town side a bit because we're trying to offset the
Yeah.
increase to the schools. My recommendation to you and to the select board will be that we need to go in for what we need and let town meeting make the decision.
yes. Well, that's what's
Because
gonna
if
happen anyway.
The school
It
is at
is,
11.3% increase, and we try to level fund to offset it. It's not a sustainable way to operate the town.
No,
So speaking about that, so there was the meeting in December. I think, I know if Heidi, you went to it and this
Yep,
was.
that's
the
what I was just
Boylston.
gonna
I mean,
touch
what-
on.
Yeah, what, yeah,
Um,
update on that?
It
It
was this,
really,
really.
it was kind of what Aaron and Al had to say here. The chair of the Boylston Finance Committee, basically is requesting a level funded budget, from Boylston as well. Touched on the insurance, the increased insurance costs, the increased health insurance exposure. They do have their free cash certified, though. Did I understand that
Ye-
correctly? At 1.1
The
million?
excess and deficiency, yep, from. 25,
Yep,
yeah.
no, the town of Boylston.
Oh,
free cash
Boylston, I'm sorry, I'm
certification
thinking the district.
Was,
no,
yeah,
They do,
One-
that's why they were able to provide more information, and we
Okay.
didn't have it at the time, so I didn't want to speak to any specifics.
and he also, Howard, I didn't get his last name.
Dropped her.
Also mentioned that they did see, what he thought was a significant increase in excise tax, but, also noted that that's a volatile fluctuating revenue source. So you really can't count on that. They're looking at a new roof for their elementary school now, so they have some challenges coming up with that. They were still waiting for the budget request from their departments and committees. Yeah, and he ended with saying he's expecting it to be a very challenging budget process again. Nothing seems to be coming from the state to help alleviate the financial burden.
So they're saying they have 800,000 new revenue. That's what they're saying, they're projecting their new growth in
Between 2.5. Yep, that's what Boylston's projecting, so,
Projecting.
and they split 50-50 between
Right.
the town and the
but-
school on new
Right,
revenue.
and the initial budget numbers we just received here with a rough, what was it, the,
11.3%
yeah,
increase.
where are the rough, assessment numbers? So that's someplace in here.
you want the percent that, proposed to be assessed to Berlin, is that what you're?
Well, I was just looking at Boylston's numbers,
Oh, Boylston's not.
just,
Oh, okay.
I
Yeah.
mean, they're looking at, no, just at their elementary school, assessment increases, well, just operating assessment of 1.1 million plus. And they're saying they have $800,000 to split between the schools. So obviously they're,
Not including right.
right,
capital.
well, yeah, I'm not including the capital number here, so
Right. And they don't have excess levies, so he mentioned that they're probably gonna have to do an override.
it would have to go to an override and if that, if that fails, then, because obviously, I mean, we wouldn't need an override, though we're getting incrementally closer and closer.
Yeah, we
all
still have
the
about
time
$1
on that.
million left in excess levy. It's 992 or something like that. But most towns do not have excess levy, so they've been dealing with the override issue, which is that push and pull, right? And we're feeling it too, because we'd like to preserve that excess levy and reduce the impact on the taxpayers as much as possible.
Well, we've been, because of Boylston's circumstance, we've been the soft landing. for the regional district to come for money.
On the Berlin Memorial side.
Right, and now that they're out
Well-
of excess levy, I see, yeah, and they have to go to an override, it's a different situation.
Yeah, it's really had a very negative impact on Berlin because our taxes have gone up in a way that Boylston's haven't because of the excess levy.
And it's really hurt the town side,
Yeah,
retroactively, I
Yeah.
wish I had advocated even stronger for not having some of those cuts last year, because it's making it difficult to run the town,
yeah. Mhm.
so, with a limited reserve fund, which, we did some adjustments at special town meeting, which helped, but
But Kristen, I couldn't get you convinced that getting rid of that excess levy was a useful thing.
I don't think you want to get rid of it. I think that
Not that way.
we
Not
should
that
not frankly have
way.
accumulated that much over those many years is really the problem, because you don't want to have a big jump all at once for
Joking.
folks.
Joking.
Okay, fair enough.
And was there any more on their school resource officer stuff that was?
I have
That was actually not brought, I was surprised it was not brought up.
me too, because I heard that was a coming thing, but
Well, yes, that
yeah.
was what was mentioned, or what was that early, well, our first meetings, right?
yep.
Yes, I was looking at some school committee and it was on the table, there was the budget and other aspects school committee, they did discuss that SRO. October, November timeframe. But-
Yeah.
But this December 9th meeting with Boylston might have cooled their jets a bit on that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because
I haven't
that's an
heard anything
expensive
else.
proposition and it's an
Yes.
ongoing operating budget,
is.
expensive proposition for both the towns and the school.
It is, and I understand the concerns that relate to proposing that. I think at least on the Berlin side, we're doing a very good job of sort of doing a hybrid school resource officer, community liaison officer, and making it work for us. So Boylston's not in the same situation as we are there.
No, and I was looking at the minutes from the meetings last fall where that was discussed and that some of the comments coming through was, including from, I believe, students, was we really want mental health resources.
Mm.
That's a piece of, that's more than police presence, as they want those, and felt that that the student population could use an increase in that area.
Versus
So-
the resource officer. If you're gonna put
Exactly.
funds somewhere, put it towards mental health.
So you have a person in a uniform with a gun that sits in the school versus somebody who's trained in counseling to deal with student problems.
And this is only going to get worse. I will tell you, as a kindergarten teacher, my sister let me know that the COVID babies started kindergarten this year, and yes, and the
Oh,
problems and the
You don't-
challenges.
You don't wanna know my opinion on that whole thing. That crutch needs to go away. Parents and,
Well.
Yeah.
Yes, my sister is a teacher and a parent.
yes. Yeah, that, it needs to be, give it a different label at least, but blaming it on COVID at this point really needs to.
So I do think that the funding to have an SRO in the district is gonna fall much more heavily on Boylston because the high school, the two schools are located physically,
Right.
and that, if you read the SRO regulations, which I did when it came up a couple of years ago, they the police chief in the town where the school's cited is the one that is responsible for that individual that would be
Right, they couldn't report to Berlin and work in Boylston. It doesn't
That's
work
right.
that way.
Right.
Yeah.
right. Well, even, I mean, Lynn could even comment on this, the SRO at Assabet is a Marlboro police officer because the school sits in the city of Marlboro.
We're taking a lot more Marlboro students.
I saw that 50 more, it looks
Mhm.
like.
That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, so it was pretty much Marlboro and also Westboro's had pretty good jump. If you look even over the years, because you can look at 9 through 12, you can see how everybody else was kind of steady in there, numbers not percolating around too much, but yeah, Marlboro obviously the big jump, but even Westboro was
Well, they always complained that we didn't take enough IEP students or students with special needs. And we did, 35% of our kids were more than they are now. But they were saying, you know, we didn't take some of their kids. Well, now we're taking all of their kids, so. I think they're regretting their wording.
Sorry, you're talking about Marlboro or Westboro? or
Marlboro, yeah.
Marlboro. Interesting.
Well, Marlboro's population in general has grown
Oh,
quite.
they have 4 huge.
Quite a bit,
new Apartment
yes.
complexes
And
on
some
the
of them
horizon.
haven't even-
1,200 units, I think.
Oh, more
Between
than
the
that.
4.
I mean, they're going everywhere.
Yeah. I won't be able to get out on Route 20
That
anymore.
was one thing
No.
I was afraid of Berlin when we started doing the megaplex down there at the Rotary. Renters are very different people than people who own homes in town, so they have different interests, different desires, different outlooks. So I saw it, I lived in Framingham at one time when they went through a great growth, and the town changed totally. You know, because you could get one group of folks showing up at town meeting for one particular thing, and that was it. You know, it wasn't like a community anymore. I was very pleased to see that at least the school is being reasonable with you folks. I mean, the last time I was here, that they were there, it was a very different attitude, and I know Scott had to control things. And I'm just glad to see that things are going better.
Yeah, well, I mean, the new administration, I mean, obviously has made a big difference. I mean, they've taken charge, they've got the experience, and they are, you know, cleaning up with what they can.
And they're very communicative, and we've established a good line of communication on both ends, you know, to bring it back to, so everyone gets the same message, and that has been, I feel like the work with the administration has been really refreshing.
Yeah, no, I was very pleased just to see everybody being able to discuss things and question things, and not too many answers, but a lot of questions.
Yeah, well, at this stage, it's always tough with the detailed answers, but.
Well, it's hard. They have to kind of learn that they have to be able to venture out and, you know, kind of give some guesses, if you will. We have to do it every year.
Yes, I mean, that's what they're being paid for, right, is your expertise, opinion, and your experience, and you can't sit back and say, I don't want to
Averages,
stick
they
my neck
increased
out.
the Chapter 70 money. 10% over the last 5 years, so we kind of figure maybe it's gonna be 10%. We have to be a little conservative because if we're wrong, and you know,
Yes,
it's gonna be very hard to make up some of that money.
Don't overpromise and underdeliver, so we'll take, I think, conservative
Yeah.
at this point. It's the most, makes the most sense.
You could always
Conservative
bring it
on the
down,
revenue.
but you can't raise it up.
And conservative on, you know, cost, I think, as well, but. I have nothing else for you this evening.
No.
The select board will take a look at the budget requests, at a high level on Monday night. I'm working on getting all of those entered into the spreadsheet at this point. I don't have recommendations yet, but they will take a look at that. They want to have a first shot and supplemental funding requests, and then we'll have, that soon information for you on Wednesday.
speaking of budget requests, we haven't done our budget requests on our 2 budgets.
You didn't, so I level funded you and highlighted you and made a note that you didn't submit, but we can have that conversation.
Scott, it's going on our permanent record.
Yep.
Be careful.
Well,
Here.
part of it
Without the
is,
That makes you feel any better.
well, part of it is in the past, we never, I mean, my first time through this, it was. We were going through it, so we would just readjust it
Bye,
as we
Lynn.
went
Thanks for
along,
coming out.
so.
Always good to see you.
Thank you, Lynn.
I mean, the main
Me
one
too.
was always reserve fund, which you kind of readjusted as you figured out the budget, so.
Yes,
So is our budget request in the Google Drive?
everybody's are in the Google.
All right. there we
No,
go.
I'm sorry, yours isn't in there. I just put it in the budget. I level funded it from last year.
Oh, okay. All
And
right.
actually, I proposed taking away your dues.
We have
line
a
item
budget.
And,
We do.
putting it in our dues, because why have a budget just for dues? So I did propose personnel pay has $250 for dues, and you have 200, I think.
Well, it's just it's just under 200. I think we were like 185 last
Yeah.
year or
Yeah,
something. It
like
was,
that.
We pay all those July 1, and you guys generally aren't meeting at that time of year. It makes sense just to have the dues come out of our office, and we make sure they get paid, so we get access to that information right away too.
yeah, we're doing it in September when we have our first meeting, right?
And
It's
they're
been
yelling
sitting in
at
the
us.
mail, been sitting in the mailbox for 2.5
Right.
months.
But reserve fund was 90, so I leveled it for now at 90. And we can have that conversation.
Okay. That's the other part of our budget.
Yes. The part I am not trying to take away.
The
I do have to
reserve
say,
fund.
it's so hard
Reserve
now
fund.
looking at it, is that things have gotten so much more expensive now. So 90 really doesn't go as far as it used to. But nothing goes as far as,
That's a comment that I will take to heart.
because all it takes is one bad thing, and
It
Yes.
does.
not even bad thing, it's just
Unplanned,
It's true.
unexpected.
a real
Yeah.
unforeseen expense, and
Yep. I would argue though that, if you were gonna add, I think at one point we were at 110. If you were gonna go back, I would rather take that $20,000 and put it into addressing some of the personnel issues that we have on the non side. So, just preview of coming attractions.
Oh, okay. Mhm.
Because now that we're generally having a fall town meeting, and I think that will continue, you also can make adjustments to the budget and add to the reserve fund if need be in the fall town meeting, which helps when you're not doing it just once a year.
So if you deplete it in the first couple of months and you're back at town meeting, you can then
Correct.
refill.
And you can make budget
Only-
adjustments based on October information as opposed
Yes.
to March,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
makes a big difference.
the only problem with that is increasing anything, it would have to come from somewhere else. Because the recap sheet, once it's set, we
Correct.
can't increase taxes anymore, it
We'd
would have to
put
come
free
from like
cash into it.
free
for a
cash,
year.
so.
So you really ought to put it where you think it ought to be.
As far,
You
if
don't
it's
play
an
the game.
ongoing,
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a one-time thing, it's not as bad to use free cash, but if it's gonna be a permanent increase, then.
Yeah.
You really wanna do it before the tax rate's set, so.
We have some really important discussions to be had. So
Should we be nervous? You're scaring me.
I'm not trying to scare you. I just. I think of, right way to say this, but the choice that was made to generate excess levy is now hitting us. And the fact that we didn't go up more incrementally by 2.5 over a series of a decade or two, we have increasing needs and responsibilities and unfunded mandates on the staffing side, but we haven't kept up with the staffing needed to meet those increased demands. And that's the challenge that we're really facing. And it's making day-to-day operations challenging. It's burning out staff. We're losing people. And then we're gonna have to replace them with less experienced, more expensive people. We need to invest in our staff. We really do. So it's a conversation that we'll need to have. And some difficult decisions will need to be made.
Yeah. I was concerned about this last year.
Yep. And it hasn't gotten better. It's only gotten worse.
Mhm.
And like I said, last year we could cut on the expense side, and which is making it hard, but now I have no wiggle room on the expense side at all.
We didn't leave any room last year. That was pretty clear to me.
And I just feel like we've shorted ourselves, as I said, by trying to offset, and I understand the impact to taxpayers. I genuinely do, but if they're gonna ask for what they need, we really should be asking for what we need.
Who they?
Schools.
I mean, is there any ever further thought? I mean, always been brought up every year. I mean, obviously you get the regionalization from the schools, but working more, especially, I mean, other towns falling into these categories and that stuff of just other things that can be regionalized, because it
Yep.
seems like there's just so much of, I mean, you'd look at this, I mean, all these little towns are almost like just little companies that you could just see somebody coming along and just doing a massive merger of them and going, there's so much, I mean, things that are just redundant, or you could just get the efficiencies that would allow things to be a much more cost effective. If all these, everybody has to have their own individual, this,
Called fight
everybody
clubs.
chief, yes. I
Correct.
mean, how many chiefs do you need of different things? I'm not trying to lay out the ones that had the title of chief, but you do have too many titles that are over No, not enough,
So-
right?
So Scott, I've lived through quite a few corporate mergers, divestitures, acquisitions, and let me tell you, they never deliver as promised. Never. You always lose and very often don't gain. The scale isn't necessarily what it's chalked up, no, not what people promise.
Well, I would argue in towns this size, it makes sense. It's a size issue.
Certain functions, it makes sense. That's kind of my point. You need to be very good at doing this and very, you know, just study it and be very particular about it, because just doing it to say, oh, you know, we're gonna have, you really have to be thoughtful about it.
You do, but to that point, the state's done a good job with dispatch and with public health. There was
Right,
a
I mean,
lot of
those
money
are
that
the,
came out of
right, this
COVID to
dispatch is
regionalize
a
public health.
dispatch, I mean, even on a small scale with us, with Clinton and the bucket truck scenario,
Yep.
right? Even though it's like Clinton doesn't seem to be really leveraging it, or at least so much, but it
Yeah,
is.
they're not trained.
But those are small things that working you incrementally just
Yeah.
keep adding to that.
Well, that is one of those selections. You got a piece of equipment like that, that's a reasonable selection. And you maintain your ability to at a very immediate scale, run your operation. You know, you have somebody sitting 2 towns away and they can't see the immediate needs in the community, whereas
You have to
the
have
guy
boots on
driving
the
around
ground.
all the time sees it. So it's a
Yeah.
very different, and where is the decisions taken? That's the part that that when you were merging companies together, where is the decisions being taken now? And very often the decision, the determination of where to put that decision making is done not for the reasons that make the operations run, but for other reasons, political reasons.
Well, that's why you don't
Basically.
want to merge town administrators, right? So that way, if you do regionalization on certain things, and we're looking at
Yeah.
inspectional services right now.
Yeah.
There's already an established one close by that is interested in allowing us to join. That right off the bat would be about a $25,000 a year savings. But I'm getting some pushback that we need to keep it local. We would have people in that office that work just for Berlin. So it has to be the right mix and the right balance, and I think you can do it, especially if you have somebody physically here to manage day-to-day operations. I mean, you know, we right now have an office that's only open 2 days a week to the public. So I've been assured if we go regional, it'll be 4 days a week. It may be less
The
hours,
inspection office,
but the
yeah.
inspection office would be open 4 days a week.
Yeah, and on top
staffed
of
by-
it, when you have small numbers like that, when people leave,
Right.
then you're really in a bad position where you can scale up and, you know, not have one person leave and all of a sudden your staff, your offices disappear, but you're
Right.
combined, you don't see that impact as bad, or you can absorb it.
Right, and the building commissioner is retiring. I should have prefaced with that, April 1st. He has given his
Does he mean it this
retirement
time?
note.
Does he mean it?
He does, and in fact, I have to make plans, so the select board has asked me to continue to explore the regionalization, but also post the position to see what we get and kind of hedge our bets. So that position will be being posted tomorrow.
Hmm.
And it's going to be a 30-hour-a-week position, so they're based on kind of the workload that's been coming in over the past couple of years and the decrease in permitting. We feel comfortable being able to do that, and there is some cost savings there, but not if the person takes benefits, which of course you can't ask, like we were just talking about. So I still think regional is the way to go, but that is a select board decision.
One of the things with health insurance, you know, when it came up, like where both spouses have it available to them, with a lot of the insurance companies dropping like the insured plus one,
Yep, the dual or
It
whatever you call
got-
it, yeah.
because yes, it would make more sense for my spouse to be covered where he works, me to be covered where I work, and one of us just pick up plus one. But they don't do the plus one anymore. It's either a single policy, family policy.
That's how they make money. That's
And
very
it-
Say, well, we looked into
And a
that.
family policy could be you and 12 kids,
Mhm.
or just you and one.
It costs more to add the dual plan. They don't like it. The insurance
Yeah,
companies don't
because
like
the
it.
other
They make
two
less money.
plans went up. I think,
Correct.
when we looked at it, yeah.
I mean, I have to say our claims are low. We went up about 12% on health insurance last year as opposed to the 18 to 20 that other towns went up. I don't I have to budget for 20 right now conservatively. We'll have a better idea at MMA in a couple of weeks when they make the announcement of where we're at. But knock on wood, we have so few employees that we really get spread out with the pool, and we don't have huge high claims, which you're more likely to have those the more employees that you have. So we, I think, are well protected with the pool at Maya. I'm always interested in exploring. Town managers are talking about this all the time. But the GIC is problematic for a number of reasons. You lose individual control and plan design. And some of the regional pools have collapsed that they've tried to, collaborations and consortiums that they've tried to go through. And a big factor in driving all of this is, again, like transportation. If you guys want to open a business, you should open a bus company and an auditing firm. You should also open like a Fallon or Reliant replacement, or Fallon Health Insurance replacement, because when they went out of the business, Blue Cross is the name of the game. So you have very concentrated power and services within a very few number of people, and that just drives costs.
No kidding.
Bus company for sure. I'm telling you, I might leave and start a bus company because that is the way to go. There's like one game in town.
Where do they park the buses now? No, they don't do
Off
that.
of River Road is where they all are.
Okay, they didn't use the mall because we connected them
No.
with the mall.
We haven't
Okay,
used
They used them all for a
in
while.
years.
Okay.
But then River Road there, they really kind of expanded that lot and
You can
seems-
really
River-
see them now too.
Yeah,
they've
because they
trimmed a lot
park-
of the-
they park right down in the lots at the road too.
And
Just
that's,
past Gillis's.
right, that's.
Oh, yeah.
Right, or is that still in Berlin or in Hudson?
It's, I think, just out of Berlin, I think.
Cause I remember when
It's in
they
that funny
started
line,
parking them there,
yeah.
then, well, this was years ago when they, the assessor's office started making all the, them to get
Oh, we looked
garage
into the
of the,
busing. Yeah, yeah,
excise taxes to bring them in.
right, but they don't have to if it's a regional district. It's a whole thing. So, yeah, even though the buses are parked.
You know, I thought it was wherever your things are garaged.
Doesn't
right?
have to be, the state doesn't crack down on that. That's what we found out when we looked into it. You
The
remember we
state
looked
just
into it a
doesn't
couple
make
years
any-
ago?
Yeah.
Specific to the regional or just,
As long as they're
anybody.
paying their excise tax, they don't care so much.
State doesn't care.
does it care what town it's going to or?
That's what
whatever?
we learned, because we tried to capitalize on that when
Yeah.
they were over on the Berlin side at the mall.
Well,
Now I'm going back 3
Well,
years.
Yeah.
Diane Peterson was doing that years ago when they first started there. Did that not
yeah,
go through?
and then they moved it, and then it wasn't until just recently.
Oh,
that
they
came
moved it
to-
and then they came back again? Oh, I didn't realize.
So they must
that.
probably bounce around probably where they,
Seemed like they were there for years at Salmon Pond, and maybe there was a gap year in there.
I know sometimes like during the day, they sat there waiting
Yeah.
for the next round, but.
All right, anything else? It's 10 o'clock. Do we want
Would
to?
you like a
close
motion,
this
a
up?
motion to adjourn?
Yeah,
Was that your motion, Mary?
It's my motion.
I
Heidi.
second.
all right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye.